Should we wait a few minutes, or what do you think? Give them a few minutes. Okay. Yeah, you'll be missing 2 more. I'm doing a little trick just to synchronize the audio and video. So I'll make a noise, so don't be startled. Awesome. That's what I was doing is capturing the sound between this motion, like here, and it is also being captured through my microphone. And I have my audio stream and video streams going separately in time sequence. So when I go back, I'll align them with the pointer, and they will do a lip sync. Right? That's what I just did. So otherwise what happens is this camera started like 10 seconds ago, this started 20 seconds ago, and this thing started, the audio started like 50, just now maybe. So I want to synchronize all the three, like 2 cameras, one screencasting, and the screencasting is actually happening right now. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it goes like this. So you can actually broadcasting right now. And minimize it, go back to our screen, and that's what we will present on this computer, which is basically the Mac. It's a funky way of presenting. The Mac is not directly connected to the screen at all, except through Wi-Fi. So I can move my computer and talk to you and still project like this, like this. That's the part I do, and helps me. And it's just cool thing, right? It's toys for boys, as they say. That's one of the aspects, but it's fun to be able to do that. So I play with technology. I've been playing with technology since childhood, I guess. So how did you find the class the other day, the Monday class? What do you think? Useful? Yeah. Yes. Oh, glad to hear. How about you, sir? So one more gentleman, I guess. Conrad is either busy or bored. Bored of me or something? Maybe not. We'll find out. So I think we should just start. Just to recap for Robert, who just joined us. He's not from Boeing. By the way, everybody else is from Boeing. Boeing employees. A quick intro: Robert, Philip, Andrew, Nitin, and Michael. We are expecting Conrad to join and he's coming. Okay, good. Oh, you just signed. Oh, hi, Conrad. How are you doing? We have a new gentleman here, Philip, Robert, and this Conrad. And so I was like briefly recapitulating for you as to what did we cover the last time we met, which was Monday, and I called it yesterday. It is not, but whenever we did meet, what we did is went through a process of setting up a virtual machine and decided that we would not want to use the virtual machine because this particular class is capable of dealing with raw Ubuntu boxes on the internet through their terminals or through PuTTY shells. Like you have PuTTY installed and you have terminal already there. So they find that they're capable. They don't need a virtual box. A virtual box is that machine that you may have seen me using it. It runs on top of your laptop as a different machine runs on top of a machine and gives you a virtual environment that runs Linux. And the plan that we discussed and agreed upon the other day, Monday, was that we would rather not use the virtual box. We'll build our machines as we go along. We have already opened up an account with Amazon.com, which is a free account for 1 year. So I would suggest that you open that also, and I'll tell you where to go and how. And the idea would be that we know how to connect to a machine remotely, and we will use that method. It will require a little bit more work than would otherwise do, but I think work is okay, right? Work is okay. We'll know how to actually build up machines for whatever we need for an infrastructure, for the underlying requirements, for the platforms, for the foundations, whatever is needed, we'll build it up from scratch. And that will give us experience, as well as the opportunity for us to handle raw machines. And bring them up from bare metal all the way to whatever we need, whatever level we need, as opposed to, okay, here is a ready-made machine, it has everything, you just now run some command, it will work. That's the current setup that I had planned initially, but not for this class. So this will be I call it a higher level class, which will go deeper and build it from ground up, if that's the perspective. So with that, I just want to set the level expectations. You may have a different expectation to begin with, but we have a different audience here right now. So I've changed my curriculum itself on the fly, effectively, which is fine. We can do that. I hope you're okay, which basically means you know to work a little bit alongside with other folks in the class, which I hope. Okay? Sweet. So let's not use virtual machine, and let's just, you know, since most of you have it, I'll give it to you also. But we'll strictly stick to dealing with machines raw, build up our environment as we go along. And what we did yesterday, the other day, is set up one Ubuntu box, started there, created a key pair, and connected to it. That's pretty much what we did mostly. And now, today, as I work with you to build up you to that point, what I will suggest all of us we do is to understand, now that we have decided to go that route of building machines from scratch and then working on it through that platform, through that framework. Before we get to that point, I would like to take a step back and give you a quick overview of the 101s. You know, I think you already know it, but I just want to take 5 minutes, give you a 101 on where this, you know, how and who defines cloud computing, right? So this cloud computing, the word, is defined by NIST. And if you did not know who NIST is, it's the National Institute of Standards and Technologies. You probably already know this, right? This institution, which is a government institution, they maintain our clock, and they give standards to worldwide, mostly dominantly US. Yeah, it's US Department of Commerce. The international body is different. It's based in France. It is, what is it called? Do you remember? The French body, which is a global standard of metric system. SI, System International something. That's the name of the institution. System International. That's the name. So this is the body that defines standards worldwide. It's called the SI system. If you have studied in India, you probably know. A metric system, SI system, not the foot-pound second system, but so that's the body internationally defines that. In the US, this is the standards body. They define most technical components, including cloud computing. So they have defined what is cloud computing for us, and the definition goes like a 10-pager PDF file. It's pretty long, and here it is. We'll focus not on reading the entire document, but on the quick summary of what it exactly means to us and what are the essential characteristics of cloud computing. That's what we'll go quickly on. On-demand self-service. It basically means, you know, you demand something, they'll give it to you. The service providers will give it to you. Like we demanded, give me an Ubuntu box, 64-bit, right now, the micro, tiny size, and you got it on demand. Right? You click a button, and it's there. You don't need to call Amazon to give you a machine, but it's there. Self-service, like you can do it yourself. Next is broad network access, is enabling this. So all of us have broadband access in our homes and offices and even our pockets. You know, we carry high-speed broadband internet in our wallets. I mean the phones. Resource pooling. You know, resource pooling as in, you know, I can have an account in Amazon which is distinctly different from your account and your account, but some of you are sharing an account through your company, right? So the way you can source out and define how do you share and resources available from that service provider, how do you divide it, and among that division you can further subdivide it into different employees within Boeing under one corporate umbrella account, and then individuals like me who have an individual account, and others have corporate accounts, and some have free accounts, and some students have like sponsored accounts, a variety of types of accounts, all of them clubbed together, shared resources. That's the third aspect of it. And they are being pooled. We can share our resources. We can potentially have my virtual machine sitting right next to the machine you create on the same physical box. But they will not be able to talk to each other. They are completely isolated. It can potentially be in the same box. But you don't know me, I don't know you, we don't share accounts, so it's completely isolated, multi-tenants in the same building. Think of it that way. Multiple tenancy, that's the concept. Right, Michael? I don't see you. I should move. So the other aspect is regarding rapid elasticity, which is you can scale it up, scale it down, right? Shrink it, grow it. Shrink as in add more machines quickly and make it big. Oh, sorry, the other way. Grow as in add more machines, make it big. Shrink as in reduce the number of machines you need. So come Christmas time, I'm expecting lots and lots of traffic on my retail store because I sell Boeing airplanes in retail. So, Christmas time, everybody's going to buy Christmas planes, and I need to ramp up my machine infrastructure so I can quickly grow my base, my web services, and add more machines to my overall infrastructure in order to scale my traffic and make sure that my customers are happy, that I am able to service them properly, things like that. And come the other time, which is after holidays, it's not that heavy traffic on the internet, on the website for my retail store, and so I can shrink it back. So that's the ability called elasticity of cloud in the sense of infrastructure. And the last aspect to describe here is measured services, which essentially means they will measure how much time will you spend on the machine to keep it active. And when you're done using it, you destroy it, terminate it, and they'll stop billing you. They're measuring it. They're charging you a credit card, for at least the corporate card. The free accounts are free, so they will not charge you. But they're measuring it. And if you go beyond 750 hours in 1 month, even if you're free, they'll still charge you. That's the limit for one tiny instance. If you run 2 tiny instances and run it perpetually for a month, it'll be more than 750 hours, which means they will charge you. So think of that as measurement, measuring what is going on, how much traffic you're sending, how much bandwidth you're consuming, how much CPU is being used. All these aspects, they measure it continuously. And Google goes to the extent of measuring and even pricing by the minute as opposed to by the hour. Did you know that aspect of pricing by the minute? That's the kind of differentiation they have in Google Compute Engine, conceptually very similar to EC2 that we saw the other day. Right, Elastic Compute Cloud. We saw a machine, grab it, put an OS, run it, access it, control it. Same concept is available from Google. They call it Google Compute Engine. And other vendors have different names, but essentially the idea is the same. You get a machine, a box, you put the OS, and you connect to it. That's it. So the idea behind measuring and metering or measured service, the concept is you measure it and you pay as you go from an economic perspective. Some service models, there are 2 or 3 major ones. Software as a service, an example that you can give, what would that be? If you think of an example that you use every day. Yes, travel system. What else in your personal life? Every day. Gmail, it's a software available to you as a service from Google. And that's an example of software as a service. Salespeople, what do they typically tend to use? Called Salesforce.com, right? That's another software available as a service from this company called Salesforce.com. And those are the models in which the consumers of these services are using these services, pay as you go, per month charge, and then you subscribe to that service, typically per month, unless it is free like Gmail, then it is free. But then when product is free, you are the product, right? They're selling you. You got that idea, right? You are the product, meaning your information is being sold by somebody. They're taking your information, giving you ads and selling your information to other people to make money. And so when the product is free, you are the product. And that's an example of software as a service. From the same company, Salesforce.com, you have another service called Heroku. Have you heard of it? Oh, sorry. The service is called Heroku. What this service essentially does is lets developers develop applications and run it there. So their customer is not consumer, not you and I mean the person on the road, not you, not that, but developers who will develop an application like a travel application for Boeing employees, internal application. You can create such an application using PHP framework, using Java framework, using Ruby framework, or Python, or you come up with some C# based framework, and then you run these C#. I don't know if it's supported on Heroku or not, but most other languages are. And so you just take a ready-made application, you run it on your local infrastructure, like localhost, right here. You remember me talking about localhost the other day, 127.0.0.1. That localhost meaning this machine, you run it locally here as a developer, and then you don't have to worry about infrastructure. What you need to do is take your code, push it to Heroku, and you're done. I mean, that's it. You don't need IT guys. Is that a benefit? Potentially to some. When I'm a small team of developers, we don't need IT because we cannot afford them. So we just use Heroku. Because Heroku is now our IT guys. They manage entire infrastructure, underlying platforms for us. They will load up the OS. They will get the machines and then install the operating system, install all dependencies, put the frameworks in place, and every other thing that is needed, enable ports, enable security groups, enable our keys for us. And then the app goes live. We don't have to do anything apart from developing the application. And that's the concept of platform as a service. Now, this was just one example. Have you ever encountered another such thing? Or do you have it already in your company called platform as a service? Are you familiar with this idea? Yes, I know you have it, but I just want to hear from you, like, what do you use and how would a developer would use it? Like, what examples? Give me a consumer example, a business example that you might have in mind. Don't have to give me internal examples. Going internal, keep it with you. But PAAS.com. No? Yes, beautiful. Yes, exactly. That is the company that Facebook just bought. And you can take your application that uses this framework and load it on parse.com as the backend as a service. They call it BAAS, backend. The entire backside applications are available. These are XYZ AAS, like you name it AAS, whatever as a service is available. And so this happens to be the backend as a service. So they will provide the entire backend. All you create is the front end applications and then use them. So Facebook liked them and they bought them. I think they talk about somewhere. They'll mention that we are a part of Facebook somewhere. About will say that. Somewhere they'll find that, yeah, we are part of Facebook. So yeah, I know they are. So that's another example for backend as a service. Other examples are Google App Engine. You heard of this? They provide you environments for your Java applications, for your PHP applications, and Ruby applications, and Go applications. So see, all these examples are already on the side. You see that here. You can take your Python app, and they'll give you a runtime ready to run your Python apps. Yeah, it is coming. I think Ruby is coming. It's not listed here, but Ruby is coming, I understand. Take your Java apps, take PHP, preview, Go apps. And you take your app and just give it to Google, load it up on my account in App Engine, and there we go. By the way, Google is giving $2,000 worth of compute time and this App Engine time for us. If you want, you can take it. Not that you care, but just so you know, they're giving free because they want to compete with Amazon, with other people. So they're giving up services. And if you're a startup, you can actually get like $100,000 worth of compute. You have some certain stage of investment you have to have. But so I think for us, $1,000 or something you can get for free. It's almost conceptually similar to this Amazon free account. A little bit more than that, I guess. But it's time bound, only for 3 months, which is good for the course. If you want to experiment with that, I'll give you a link later on. Right? Yeah, I think it's a great idea. So I'll email me, and I'll email back a link where you can get that free offer. It's a good one. Just play with for 3 months. Just get to know, get to understand what they provide, and it's educational. So otherwise, you don't have to use it. Okay, now is a good time, I guess. Now is a good time. So think of it that way and plan it and make use of it. And you can share it if you like. I don't think that code can be used again and again, but we'll figure it out. So some languages supported here, another platform available as a service. Back here, we have the other aspect of infrastructure as a service, which we already discussed, which was EC2 as one example, right? We used it the other day. Other examples that you can think of, and I just mentioned a few. Yes, Azure does it. Azure Compute Engine. Google Compute Engine will give you machines, just like Amazon does. Give you a box, and then you can go to console, and I can basically give you an idea how it works. So go here and say Compute Engine, and say VM instances, and you can start an instance. Just like it looks very different, but the concept is same. Create an instance. Are you able to see it properly, or is it too short, too small, too big? Is it too small? How about now? Okay, so here we create a new instance and select a zone, machine type, machine size, lots of different sizes, very small size to very large size, all these sizes available, right? Very small machine, 1 CPU, 0.6 GB of memory, all the way through 8 CPUs and 30 gigabytes of memory, all sizes that you can pick and choose. So pick a size, and then new disk from the image that you will put, and then you select the image you want. And image is here like Amazon machine image we saw the other day. You select the operating system you want, and then you put it on the disk, and it goes and it runs, and then you connect to it. In here, the choices are limited. Not everything is available, like Windows is not. But they have CoreOS, Debian, CentOS. CentOS is like Red Hat. More CoreOS, SUSE, Red Hat, the actual from Red Hat company, and SLES, SUSE Linux, Enterprise Linux. So these choices, somewhat limited choices of operating systems, and no Ubuntu. But there is Debian, so it works. And then you create networking, get an IP address from outside, a public IP address if you want, and then create the machine. It gets created, and then you can connect to it just like we did the other day. There's no magic here. Pretty much similar. This is the infrastructure as a service. Another example I mentioned the last time was this thing called DigitalOcean, if you remember right. I mentioned DigitalOcean as a machine provider, and I showed you the pricing of that, which is very simple pricing, $5 a month. You remember that machine provider. So these are the service providers, for example, that constitute infrastructure as a service. Here. And then there are deployment models, which is, you probably have some familiarity with them already, but I'm just quickly covering that, which is you have the model of deploying a private cloud, which is entirely within your corporate boundaries, like completely nothing connected to a public IP address at all. So nobody can even come in. It's totally secure in your premises, totally inside your company. You can do that, and that concept is private cloud, if you do it like that. The other concept which we used the other day was a public cloud. We connected directly from a public location and went to the Amazon cloud, and we were able to connect to it. It is a public cloud. And all the examples I just mentioned all of them are public services. Anybody can subscribe to them. Just put your credit card, you get it. Right? And now we have a concept of hybrid cloud, which is a mix and match. So now give me an example of a hybrid situation, which is very useful for companies who are selling planes for Christmas. What would that be? What scenario would that be if you have a scenario of selling planes to consumers for Christmas? And you have an internal store that runs in your private cloud, and it's there for you, but you have really high demand because like worldwide people want those toys or planes. For everybody wants it, and you have a need. But you have your private cloud infrastructure in your company, and you suddenly have tremendous demand from India and China. It's hard to beat these two countries, like huge population. And so what do you do now? Suddenly, you see that there is demand coming. And how do you service that demand? You cannot do it in your private cloud because it's limited. Even though you have budget, you're still limited by, you cannot really acquire quickly. So what do? You now supplement that with a public cloud. So what you would do is this aspect of what I call various names to this concept. Some people call it bursting into the cloud. So you expand yourself and then shrink it back when you're done. So you exit from the public cloud and keep it back only in private if you like. But you can breathe in and breathe out as you grow and shrink, or as you just breathe normally. And if you're really breathing too much in, you need a bigger chest, and so you expand into the public cloud and you accommodate larger workload. And when you're done, you shrink, and that becomes an example of hybrid cloud. There's a third one here, community cloud. So some certain groups of people can share it, but not other people. So it's not public as such, but limited to that community. Like, for example, would be people who have interest in aeronautics. I'm just making stuff up. Not everybody's interested, but some group of people can be, and that becomes a community cloud. So that's just another definition. Exclusive use by a specific community of consumers. Like, that's how it describes itself in the definition, is you have a community. Not everybody is welcome, but then within the community, everybody can share. It's conceptually public cloud, but not really, because the public cannot. Only that community members can. It's like a private club, if you think of it. And a club cloud, or community cloud. That's the definition. And there's a lot more to it in the actual mechanics of the definition, but I think it's good bedtime reading for you. So I'll give you a link for this in the classroom, which is classroom.google.com. We'll go to Big B and post you reading, bedtime reading. How about that? And here is the link for cloud computing definition. And I'm just posting that so you can read it when you have time. It will not open on your laptops, but on your iPad it will work. Did it work on iPad or something at your home? Andrew, did you try, Andrew? Did the library open? And the doc. Okay, no worries. But give it a shot. See if the library works, and the videos might, whenever you get time. But I just gave you the definition link. Back to what we want to discuss. So one thing I forget. Hey, remind me, Robert. I need to set up an account for you. I need to give you access, which I haven't done, which I will be doing. So having discussed this, what I would like to understand from you is, are you familiar with this tool called Git? Have you used it? Okay. I think it's a very good tool. This is the tool's name. It's called Git. And you heard of this at least? Have you? No? Yes? You have. Okay, no worries. We don't need to learn the command in great depth, but we need to understand, because this is a fantastic tool. The use of this tool for us would be to manage our workflow. Like whatever we do, whatever we change, whatever we make modifications on, we'll store inside a repository. This gives us a repository for our work. So I'll give you an example before I jump into Git, because let's see what the definition of Git is. I think that will be a good one to see. Man is the manual command, and I'll say man git, and see what it says the definition is. The actual definition is the Git, the stupid content tracker. That's the formal definition. It is the stupid content tracker, right? And you know who created it? Linus Torvalds. You know that guy? So that guy created this tool in like 3 days, and he released it, and he uses this tool to manage the source code for Linux, his product, Linux. And there is a software as a service available using Git for all the developers that use Git. Do you know that SaaS solution, the name of that SaaS solution? GitHub, yes. You heard that, right? So yeah, that is a fantastic software as a service available using this stupid content tracker, and we will use this formally known as stupid content tracker. By the way, Git is a bad word if you did not know in UK. Did you know? Yeah, so look it up. It's a bad word, and Linus deliberately chose that word for this software. He says that I choose it because that's the name I want to use. So although people today in the US and all the developers feel very smart and happy about Git, and it's actually a bad word. I did not know when I first heard it. I said, okay, but so look it up. I'm not pulling it up here, but on your own, find out what Git actually means in United Kingdom, and it's not that bad, but it's generally bad. It's like calling somebody something. So yeah, so that's the name. The idea behind this tool is to how will it help us? That's the first question. Why do we care about this Git, and how do people use Git? Who uses Git? Developers, and not just open source developers, by the way. If you did not know, let's look at what this company is doing. Visual Studio, do you heard of it? Yes. So Visual Studio now supports Git. Yeah, yes. Visual Studio now supports Git natively. It is now a part here. It's included. Microsoft is transitioning its developmental processes to using Git. They used to use a different version, a different framework called Perforce-based internal tool, and now they're transitioning to this tool. And that's the power of open source. Even the biggest companies are thinking of it. Biggest software companies are thinking of it and adopting it into their main tool of development, which you already do, I guess. Being Microsoft shop, I guess Boeing is. Can I say that? Mostly, or is it not? Half and half. So what is the other half? I see. So mostly based on some Unix OSs, or I see. Okay, good to know. So the idea behind this tool, how developers use it, is like this. I'll give you a very simple example to quickly get you the understanding of what's going on. Imagine you and I are in a team and we are developers. We develop something, right? Really simple software, and the software looks something like I'm going to trivialize it, really trivialize it to make it simple. So I want to write hello world. And that's what I wrote, and I hope you can see it. And this is the file I wrote, and I saved it, and I'm sharing with him, and he notices you have a typo there. I want you to fix it. And so I said, you fix it for me, please. You fix it, and you will give me a change, and that change will actually fix it. So what he can do is fix it for me. 2 deletes. So it deleted the 2 Ds, extra Ds, and now we have a fixed product, right? We were able to collaborate and include those changes and incorporate his changes into the common tree of work we are developing together by using such a tool, which will help us in source code control or source code management. That's the simplest example I can think of. And I'll now actually work on it to show it to you how we do this, right? Before we actually implement, and I would like you also to do along with it. Do you have a terminal ready, like in Amazon or on your laptop or something? I think we destroyed it the other day, right? We destroyed it. So we will get that, but hold on. Before we jump there, I want to quickly give you a demonstration of an example of how we would use Git. And so I'm getting there now. So what I'm going to do is, are you able to see it, or should I make it a little more bigger? Bigger is good. Yeah, big. So now I'm going to create a directory, and I go inside that directory. You familiar with these commands? If you're not familiar, please stop me. Should be simple. Make directory and enter there. Enter the directory. In that directory, I have nothing. There is nothing. So in that directory, I will create a new file and call it hello. And I'm going to edit that file. And that's the file here. On the name is hello.txt. And here I'll say hello. And save it. And quit. Now I have that file. I will print that file on the screen. And you see the mistake, right? Up until this point, we did nothing. We did not even use Git. But you saw the framework. What we have is a file containing hello.txt in the directory called test and nothing else. And the file itself has a mistake. We know that. Now what I want to do is take a snapshot using Git tool. And then further, after taking that snapshot, I'll go and then correct my mistake and merge it. That's what I will show you quickly here. Before you do anything with Git, you have to enable and tell Git to know that, hey, I'm using you. So Git needs to know that I'm being used. So I'll say git init. And so it initializes a set of folders inside the current directory. I'll clear my screen and say ls. And you will see that there is this hello.txt, right? And there is a hidden folder called .git. The .git folder that you see, the blue colored here, it contains everything that Git needs to know to manage what files I'm changing, what files you will be changing, and things like that. Usually we do not venture in that directory because it is supposed to be hidden. We don't need to go there, but we can, and we will. It contains a lot of stuff. We don't need to study that right now. We are going to just use it. So we'll come back and clear it up. And here we have just one file visible and one folder with all stuff inside there. Now Git, what it can do for us, we just told you now we are using Git. So Git, we are using you. Now be ready. I need to now put this file in the control of that control system called Git. So I will take that file itself and allow it to be checked in. Just like a check-in, check-out procedure. You check something in, and they will know what did you actually check in. Anytime you change something, I'll show you what was the difference. And then you can incorporate the difference back or relinquish it and ignore it, discard it, or do whatever you want with it. That's how it works. So now I'm going to go in here and tell Git, hey, I have a file called hello.txt. Please accept it. And so that is git add this file. And so it adds it. Now we'll say, show me the status currently. And so this concept of git status will show us that there is one new file called hello.txt here. But it has not been committed. It needs to be committed. Committing is conceptually similar to database committing. Like you commit to it, then once you commit, you cannot change it. There is no going back. It is not committed yet. We can still change it. So in that file, I will further go and make another mistake. In that file here, I'll make another mistake and save it. And now here I come back and say git status. See how the difference be between before and now. Before it was showing us there is a change that needs to be committed. There is one new file called hello.txt, and after the change that we have made, after just by adding, it doesn't actually commit. We have to explicitly commit later on, which we have not done yet. So I'm going to just see what the status is right now is, and it is different. It says there is a red color line says modified hello.txt here at the bottom. It was before just the green colored item, new file. Now that same new file that you added, you seem to have modified it in the file system. Saw that? Got it? So I need to now add again so that I remove the red color and keep the green. Essentially, the modifications have to be added again. So I'll say git add hello. And then I say git status. Now you will see that the red part modifications are accepted as additions but not committed yet because we haven't committed. So now when I say enter, it will show me new file, right? Now I'll go and commit. That was just an example for you to just describe the difference between addition and committing. Two distinct operations. Adding is letting you I will commit, and then committing is actually committing it, right? So now I'll commit, git commit, and then give a commit message like this. Are you able to see it? So I'm giving a commit message, and I'm going to say enter. So it says first commit, one file changed, 3 insertions, there were 3 lines, and then create the mode for that file and hello.txt, and it says we checked in. Now at this moment, Git knows that we have checked in one file called hello.txt, and here is how it looks like. And if you say the hidden directory also, it looks the same, except if I now delete the hello.txt, I still have it because I committed that hello.txt file. I removed it. It is not in the file system, but I have it in Git. I can bring it back by doing a reset to the point in time which I committed, and whatever I committed will come back like this. And it came back to my first commit. And so now here it is, and I can open it up, all the mistakes intact. Got it? Now we'll see the same thing visually. It will be hard for us to see these changes visually in Amazon because they don't give you a UI, but I have a visual tool just so we are seeing it for the first time. I will also show you the same thing visually, but before I jump to the visual part, let's see what the log says. So I'll say git log, and it says the first commit was done by me at this time, and it was called first commit, and I can quit, and it comes out. Now I'll say show me the whole thing visually, and so here is how it looks like. See that first commit showed up in there on the top, which is hard for you to see. I can understand. Let me change something to make it bigger if I can. Can you see the blue line that says first commit, or can you trust me to say that it does? So it says the first commit which I typed manually in the command line, and in the body here in green it shows what I typed, the content itself. The changes are in green. Green color shows additions, and if there are any deletions, it will show in red. The whole change structure is kept intact, line by line, commit by commit, and kept intact in the tree that gets built up as you commit and commit and commit over time, right? So you got the concept. I'll show you one more commit so you can see it visually. What I will now do is go back to the editor and go back to my file and remove the other mistake and keep the only first one. Save it, quit. And here in visual tool, let me go there visually. In the visual tool, I see there are uncommitted changes right above the blue first commit. Just above that, you see there is this uncommitted changes that show in red. I deleted my other mistake, and I kept the green line, which was hello world DDD, right? I haven't added these changes yet. I haven't even committed them. I'll quit the visual tool, go back to our terminal, and here I say git status. It says there is a modified file called hello.txt because we have modifications in that file in which we deleted the second mistake, didn't we? Right? You with me, Michael? Awesome. So now we'll do a git add and say hello. And now we'll say git status again. And what do we see? There's a modified hello.txt that needs to be committed again. And we'll do a git commit. something like this. Go enter and say git log. It says there is a first commit at the bottom, and on top there is a second commit. We'll see the same thing visually. We have a first commit at the bottom and second commit on top. Second commit shows the difference. Red is deleted, green is intact. That's how I'm on my own. As I develop incrementally, I can keep track of what am I doing. As we write something, as we create something, even if it is just configuration files, or even if information about what we are doing, or maybe we need some part of code, some Ruby, some cookbook, some chef recipe, whatever we create, we need to keep track of what did we change. So this tool will help us in keeping track of what are we doing. And if we change something, we know how to go back to it if we made a mistake, and it will be on a folder by folder level or a project by project level, and keep our changes intact. That's one simple way for us to use it. For this tool to work, you need some Unix machine or Linux machine. So if you have it, you already have it, it works. If you do not have a machine handy, I would suggest two possibilities. You can either install Git in Windows, it works these days, or you can use a Linux computer which is away from you, like in Amazon, for example, and connect to it, install Git there, and use it there. It's kind of difficult, but I think you can do it. So there are two approaches. What do you want to prefer? What do you prefer? You want to install on Windows directly, or you want to deal with Git installed on a Linux box and use it remotely? What's your preference? I know, I understand. So check your software sources, see if you have a Git there. I know, I forgot. So if you can, it's your choice. I'll let you make that choice. Do you want to install locally, or you want to use a remote machine with Git installed? Installing Git remotely is like one line. Sudo apt get install git core, boom, done. That's it. So it's not that big a deal of installing it on a remote computer. The big deal is to actually manage it and put the files there, bring it back. So you need a tool to transport files between back and forth. Do you have the tool, like CyberDuck or some kind of SFTP tool? I'll give you some names. You probably won't need, so you don't worry. But they will need it. So I need to figure out something for you. The name would be search for your software repository for SFTP, or Simple File, Secure File Transfer Protocol. Search that and see if you find something. Or I'll give you some other names. You might have them in your repositories. So look for them. The names would be SFTP based tools. An example would be GitHub account. You can create in 2 minutes. GitHub account is no big deal. In fact, I would suggest that you create GitHub account, but that doesn't solve the problem. GitLab, internal. It's an open source tool. Yeah, it's an open source tool. GitLab. Yes, but I'm thinking of we'll actually be using it, right? Actually using it, we'll need some Git tool, and we need it either on our laptop or remote, either way. And so if it is remote, we need a tool to transport files, or use Git to transport files. That's also possible. I think that's another workaround. If you don't have an SFTP tool, so this is the protocol for file transfer, or secure file transfer protocol, SSH based file transfer. If you do not have a software to enable that, we have a different solution. Yeah, here is another one. If you have it, look for this. It's called WinSCP. Look for this in your software library. If you find that, then we are okay. Otherwise, I have a different solution now. I just thought of it, so we can work around. And I'll now illustrate that workaround. If you don't find any software, we don't worry. We move. I understand. So kill it. The next plan is like this. Whatever you create in GitHub. And you can do that with some difficulty, but I'll show you how. Without using my terminal, I will create something in GitHub, and I'll help you create that also. I'll illustrate that. And I'm thinking as I go along because there's a complete new setup right now, but I'll do it. So here is how I go. You'll go to github.com, log in, and I logged in. Now here, what I need to do is create a repository, and we can maybe existing repository I can maybe open up. So here, and you can, once you have a repository created, this is like a folder structure for you. So you have a folder and some files. So I'll say I want to read the README file. I can open it up, and here is a repository file. I can edit the file like using the button here, and I can edit the file directly in my browser. That's a possibility. We can manage a repository once we have it. If you want to make some changes, you can say, these are my changes, and then save it. And then you have made changes to your files, whatever you want to create. And from a Linux box, you can just pull them from GitHub. Very easy. Does that approach work for you? Or do you see any roadblocks? What do you think? Yeah, GitHub website should work. I would suggest that you create an account. Yeah, and I will create a repository for you so you can edit there, right there. And I will enable this repository to be private for the class. So I need your GitHub handle. I mean, your login name for GitHub. You see what I'm saying? So I will enable that. Right now, I need to know your login name, for which I need to go and add you to a team. Create a new team. And I will give you right access and create the team. And I will add team members. If you have a GitHub login name already, please just say it out loud. That's one, right? That's you. So you're invited to join in the Big B team. Next one. GitHub. This is an organization, not a user. It's like it's an organization, as in multiple people, not one person. You have a login name also for that. This will not be the login name. It's an organization, sir, not an individual. Try logging in, and you will find out what your login name is. Can I look?
I still have to verify the email address because
Okay.
I haven't used it.
Okay. I'll wait for you. So, do you have a GitHub already, or? Yes. Oh, yes, please. Do you have a Robert an account already? Go ahead. Yeah. Nitin, do you? Looks like you're born in 1977, if I can tell. Nice. So what this helps us do is we can now, in this organization that we have, we can collectively edit a common repository of things we want to do. So whatever you want to create or deal with on that remote computer away from us, we can just copy from here, from GitHub, and pull it. So pull from that machine, pull from here, and it goes there automatically. The whole file structure, the whole folder structure goes there through a pull command. We'll enable that just now. And so in here, in this organization, what I'm going to do now is create a new repository. Yes. Oh, I lost. Where was I? Invite member. Yes, please. I guess you haven't accepted our invitation, haven't you? Are you receiving invitation notifications in GitHub? Hmm. You need to go to github.com/beacloudgenius and see if you find an invitation there. I'll post that link in the classroom. Sweet. Okay. So have you accepted, Michael? And what I'm going to do now is create a repository. And I'll call Big B as a name, and then keep it private and initialize it with a simple README file and create it. And in that file, I want to add our team. Where do you add that? In settings, collaborators, Big B, add the team. And now you should have access to a repository in your GitHub account in the link I gave you in Classroom, and that lets us edit this file. Are you able to see the repository that I show here on the screen?
No, I couldn't go for it.
To go to Classroom, and you will find a link there. In here, there's a link. The two of them posted. Stream. And here, you should find the repository and look for Big B, BLGB. Oh.
Because you said you created private.
Yeah, I created private, but I shared with you.
Well, you haven't added it yet.
Aha, okay.
But now I see you said I do a self-notation, but I'm trying out that communication.
Bellevue Rails. Can you drop down and click on Bellevue Rails? Okay. I must be mistaken. Let's go there and add you to the team. So invite someone. Bellevue Rails. That's the correct spelling. So I just invited you to this group here, and you should now receive an invitation. And we have 4 members already, and we have 1 repository, 2 pending invitations. Somebody committed. Sounds like a great idea. Nice. That was totally expected. I expected you to do that. Bingo. You did it. Awesome. Totally. You got the point, right? It's about collaboration. We have a contributor, and we have totally nicely done. Very nicely done. I'm happy for that. Totally expected that, and you did it. Awesome. Mike Cranwell, this gentleman, coe.edu. What does that? Wait. COE is what? Aha. Okay. Me too. I use University of Michigan email even today, after 17 years. And that is awesome. So that here you have repositories contributed to that we are working together. We can like essentially here, without having access to a terminal, still collaborate. But ideally, we should use terminal so that we can get the experience that we need to manage Git. Not that we are going to use it like a developer would, but at least gives us the tool to manage, manipulate whatever we are doing in our class, and gives us a tool to take this content to a machine in the cloud and do something with it. That's the benefit I think I see in the class for Git. Even if you're not a developer and if you're not using Git as a daily development tool, you can still use it as I can get it too. Yeah, by the way, you don't even need to type Nitin because we can figure out who changed what. Right? There is a blame tool. Yeah, here. See, you click here and go to the history of the contributions, and you can quickly jump. So I'll go there. Hold on. History. Click on the history, and you can see line by line who's changing what. See that visually here. Go to history, and you can visually see who's changing what at the moment. By moment, you can actually collaborate and even like stomp on each other, if you will. Like, you can create a change that overrides each other. We can do that. It lets us do and resolve conflicts. If I say I type hello like HELLO or something else, if we have a disagreement, we can make changes that compete with each other, and then we'll go and talk to each, basically resolve the conflict. If I think my language is correct and your language is not, we need to have a meeting and resolve the conflict. That same concept applies to development principles or any kind of work that we do in teams. You have a difference of opinion, difference of ideas, you meet and you resolve it. So that will happen eventually. At some point, we'll run into each other and figure out that somebody is wrong, and that's okay. That's how it works. The tool is meant to do that. So you can see it visually that it is giving us a representation of who's changing, the history of commits, history of changes, and we are actually collaborating right now without using Git, but using GitHub as a proxy to Git. Yes. Okay. So invitations, back here, and invite someone. Robert Seattle 1. Big B. Send invitation. Okay, we have all of you the members. And so now you get the point that what we are trying to do is construct a repository with all these changes, right? We just did some number of changes, and what I'm now going to show you is how do I pull these changes from GitHub and bring it to a machine. The machine can be this machine, the machine can be Amazon machine, or whatever machine. We don't care. We just need to be sitting on that machine and copy these changes over. The exact word that is used in context of Git is not copy, but clone. We'll clone it. You know cloning, right? Have you seen cloning? We'll do that right now. We'll clone this exact repository from here. There's one pending invitation, or who's pending? Robert, you should accept your invitation. Did you accept? Probably you did. I see. So we'll take this repository, this one, and I want to get all these changes that you have already made. Like collectively, we have made some changes, and we can see that in the history visually in the GitHub in the browser. But I want to get the entire repository down to my computer, and right now I will be using this computer to get it down here, right? Got it? So that's what I'll be doing next. Is I'll look for a link called cloning link, and so here is the link available. It's called clone URL. You see that? That's the URL I want to grab. And there are two or three different types of cloning URLs. One of them is cloning with HTTPS, this one. The other one is cloning with SSH. See, the URL will change when I click the button. It will change to SSH protocol as soon as I click the button on SSH, like this. You see, this protocol itself changed. The link itself changed here. And if you go back to HTTP, it was HTTP. So there are two ways to grab the clone URL. One of them is this, which is the SSH based method. The other one is this, which is the HTTP based method. The second method involves using login name and password. The first method uses SSH to connect to GitHub using a key, a private key and public key. So it uses SSH. And so in my computer, I already have, I think I already have, I may be wrong, I already have this key method already set up. So I can use the first method, and without having to type my password, because it's a private repository, right? Only we have access to it, nobody else has. And so we need to use a password method, which in my case, there are two-factor authentications involved. So I need to, just by using the password, it won't work. I need to have a phone call or a text message received, and then it will work. So I cannot even use my password, because you know what this concept I'm just describing of a two-factor authentication. Are you familiar with that idea? So you can use a phone or a text method or a phone call or a authenticator application or a RSA token, or a variety of methods of authentication that you can. So I have two. I cannot use the second method here because I'm logged out, because I cannot use it when I'm typing the password in the terminal. So I have to use the first method, and I assume that I have my keys intact in place, and GitHub knows me and I know them and all that good stuff. So I'm going to copy the SSH link, which is this one, this first link, and not use the second link for right now. I'll use this link and clone it, for which I need to go back to my terminal, clear it, and come outside of test, not be in the test, because test contains another Git repository. I do not want to collide with it. I want to come out of it. So I'm now outside it, and here I'm in the home folder. So it's the home location, cd tilde, which is my home. Tilde is the home character, and in there I say git clone and link. So in here, since I hope I have my keys already set, it won't even ask me anything, and it just bring the whole folder down and put it here. The folder will be called Big B, and I hope it works. And it did. No, it did not. It says authentication. Are you sure? Oh, it says okay. My known hosts I need to add. See, the same thing we tried the last time. It is asking me to verify. Do you know what you're doing? Essentially, and I say yes. And so it added, and it did. So it succeeded. It asks me this question of, do you know what you're doing? Essentially, because I have deleted my known host file that contained a cached entry of the fingerprint for GitHub. So next time I do it, like I will do it right next time again. Right now, I'll delete that Big B folder. By the way, we have a Big B folder, and it has this file. And so these files, actually, there are multiple files. Let me make it smaller, even more smaller. And so we have these files, Nitin test file, one new file created by Nitin, and the existing file called readme.md that I initiated. These two files, we have it. We also have a .git folder, by the way. See that here. there is a .git folder also, which came along when we cloned it, and that contains all the information about who changed what changed, what time it changed, and all the history, change history, based on commits that we made. We made commits visually using GitHub website. We can do commits here on terminal if you like. So we did that, and we can erase this comfortably because we can say rm big B, and it's gone. I completely erased it, and I can clear the screen and bring it back again. Yeah, everything got deleted. Yeah, I don't care, because boom, it comes again. Now I have it. So I erased the whole thing, and it came back again along with the Git package. The whole tree structure came along, the whole repository came along with information of who's changing, what was it changed, what was the exact date and timestamp. Everything came along together just like that by a clone operation, even if I erase the whole thing from here. And this is what I propose to you as a method to transport files between us and the machines in the cloud. We'll go to that cloud machine and say git clone blah, and it will pull the whole thing over and put it there. And if we destroy the machine, it's okay, we just do a git clone again, right? I see. Are you doing on a machine away from you or Amazon? So if I may ask you, are you able to use the HTTP link instead of the Git link? Because the SSH protocol will prevent you because you haven't set up your key relationship with GitHub. So you need to use the HTTP protocol, and then it will prompt you for your login name and password on Git on the command line, and then it will work. I cannot do that because no, I'm sorry, I did not understand. Hey. Beautiful. And so you can still do that, except that you need to use the HTTP link as opposed to the other link that I did not use. So I'll go and demonstrate that again. So on the website, you have this two types of links. One is actually three. The subversion type also available now. HTTP link is what I would suggest you use, and copy that link instead of the SSH link, because that HTTP link will prompt you on the terminal for a login name and password that you can give, and then it will clone just fine, right? Yeah, so click on the HTTPS button. Should I make it even more bigger? I guess. Did it clone for you somewhere? Where, if you could, did it work? You pulled the HTTP and it asked for a password and all that. It did ask for password, right? Okay, I see. So you have a key, so keychain. Okay, Macintosh. Yeah, so it's pulling. Good. You have a remote computer or building one? Okay. And so you need to add a line to that computer, which is I'll type it out for you. It will be to add git to your computer away from you. You need to run this command. Line number 3. This line will install git on your remote computer, which will not be there by default. It will not have git.
Do I need to, well, here it said it adds this IP address to a known host already.
Here, I would suggest use the password method. Yeah, it's probably easier for right now. Use the password method, like Conrad is doing. So HTTPS method to use this link instead of use line number 4 instead of line number 1, and that will work. Can you like make some changes and push it from your local computer? Yeah, make a change. You did already. Oh, sorry. I see. When you first time did it, that's how you did it. Sweet deal. Sweet deal. I thought you were using a UI browser. Okay. On locally, you can install. GitHub provides you, but yeah, the tool I was using is a different tool, not GitHub tool, but that's also a good one. And source tree. I see. It has free license. License is free.
I would think.
I see that. I see that. Thank you. And so, any questions on this? On the did the cloning happen? Okay, Conrad, worked right? Work for you?
Oh, it was.
With the password?
Yeah.
Sweet deal. Okay, so we got this concept, right? We now don't need that tool that we were wondering about. How do we transport files, right? Cool. Now, having said this, what I would like to do is close out on this topic of dealing with machines by trying one more provider, not Amazon, somebody else, like DigitalOcean, for example. Very simple. Concept is very same, almost similar. And I would suggest that you use a coupon that's available somewhere. It'll give you $10 worth of usage, which is like 2 months. And let me find that coupon for you. Apply it, use it, and free machine. Why not take it? So let me find it for you. Yeah, here are the coupons apparently. So try the best one. I think all SSD 10 do deploy radio T. I used to have a Cloud Genius as a promo code, but they expired it, so it may not work. But I think these codes you can use. Do deploy all SSD 10. I think you try that. I think that's a good one. Yeah, it will work. So when you open an account with them, try this promo code. It should give you $10 worth of usage, which is like 2 months for a machine. And then give it a shot. Let's play with it, see how it works out, and then we have a choice. Just to give you a flavor of a different operating provider, not just Amazon, right? So the idea would be go to DigitalOcean, do not pay, just subscribe to that and use the coupon that we found on the internet. I have accounts already, so it would not let me. Maybe it will not let me sign up. So I'll just use my existing account, but I would suggest that you sign up. And when you sign up, you have to give a login name, password, and give the promo code. And it will let you create. For me, I'm going to just sign in. And the interface looks very different from what you have seen either in Google or in Amazon. It's a third way of representation of the same concept, which is you create machines, you add operating systems. In this case of the DigitalOcean, the branding is very different. The branding is ocean and droplets in the ocean, as opposed to machines in the cloud or instances in the cloud. It's a different nomenclature, but the same thing. It's a virtual machine somewhere. They call it droplets, whatever. So we'll create a droplet here by clicking the green button, create droplet button here, click. And that lets me name a droplet if I want. So I'll name it whatever I like. I'll call it, say, Nitin. You can call it Nitin or whatever your name, machine name you give, and select the size and select the region you want. In New York 123, Amsterdam 123, San Francisco 1, Singapore 1, London 1. I'll choose San Francisco. It's closer to us geographically. And then I'll select the distribution I want to load: Linux, Ubuntu, Fedora, Debian, CoreOS, CentOS. or I'll just select Ubuntu and I'll go with the latest version of Ubuntu 14 is the stable long-term supported version. So I'll use that 64-bit, and I can provide my public key by clicking this button. So I need to provide a key to them. I already have, so I'm just selecting to use that key, please, as opposed to do it without the key. You can do it without key in DigitalOcean. If you generate a droplet without a key pair, it'll issue you a password, root password. Here it is, and you'll receive an email with them, with the root password included. That's how you can access it. So you don't have to have key to begin with. You can add keys later on. If you have a key already, I would suggest going to the left side and say SSH keys and add your key and enter your name. My key nitin.pub goes here, and paste it here. That's how you would give the key to them. If you don't have a key, don't worry about it. It'll give you a password, right? I happen to have a key already, so I'm going to use it instead. I have this key, and I can edit that key if I want. By the way, this is the same key I use with Amazon. Don't have to. I think it's a bad practice. I mean, insecure practice, not bad, to use the same key everywhere, but for trying and testing out, it's fine. Just so you know, it's not a good practice to use the same key in multiple places. You keep it secure, keep it rotated. You understand this concept of rotation of keys. So you change it every so often to make them clean. It is conceptually similar to or changing the underwear. Yeah, serious. Like you do not share underwear, you do not share keys. It's a very good analogy, right? Really, really good analogy. You know, otherwise you will get what? That's exactly what you get if you share keys. So do not share keys and rotate them. I mean, change it so frequently. And that's a good security practice. So having understood the part of keys, we can now go back to creating a droplet just to understand another infrastructure provider. Otherwise, we want to get a good flavor of what's out there in the industry, and that's why we are suggesting one more. So here it is. So get a sense of creating a droplet. Do you have a droplet already, by the way, or not yet? Okay, sign up process. I guess I'm so sorry. I'm assuming. Okay, I will shut up. I'll give you 2 minutes to sign up. Yeah, they'll ask you like login name, password, credit card, but give a coupon first and ask them to accept the coupon first.
I did, but still.
Does it acknowledge the coupon? Does it say coupon invalid? Acknowledge it. So it's okay. If it says
the coupon I enter is good.
yeah, if the coupon is applied, you can give credit card. It's okay. You can just remove the credit card later on.
No, but I cannot go forward without adding the credit card.
True, but at least they acknowledge that the coupon is okay, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. They will not charge you because they'll first consume the coupon before they charge you, and we are not going to party. So somewhere in there should be a place to add this coupon called all SSD that we found on the internet. And so at the very bottom, there is this place to add promo code. That's okay. You can still go back if I can look. Go to billing. And somewhere in there, there's a place to manage payments and see if you have a place to add coupon somewhere. Promo code. Paste it. That's the coupon on the screen. It should allow you to apply coupon even right now. Awesome. You okay? You lost internet? Ouch. Try using Chrome browser. Yeah, this browser hurts. I'm sorry. I know, but it hurts. This browser can really hurt, and it may not work. And very soon we'll be switching over from just dealing with machines to making use of. We'll think of something like You probably have seen these softwares called Office 365 and Google Apps. You heard of those and used it? Have you set it up like for yourself? Have you, all of you? That's the next exercise we want to do. Is the way I would think of something like, imagine you are the owner of Boeing, large company, multiple employees. You want to get the Boeing.com domain for yourself, and then enable your entire organization with, say, Google Apps for Work. And to enable that, you would need a domain name. So the question I have for you is, do you already have one? A domain name already? Do you? Fine. So don't modify that. But if you are already running your domain and mail server, that's awesome. So don't touch it. Don't leave it alone. If it is private, keep it. If it is for work, keep it separate. Do not touch them. For the purpose of the class, if you want, you can get a domain for $1. And I'll find a place to get that, and we'll experiment with it. We'll do the basics, the foundations of enabling a new entity. Like, think of whatever, say, Conrad E. Kimball.com. Just making stuff up. Get that domain name, and then see what it takes to enable Google Apps for Work for your CEK enterprise. That's the exercise. Is that interesting? So let's do that. Would you be okay spending $1? Sweet. So I think there is this company called One and One that gives a coupon for $1, a domain for $1. So go grab that, and when you do that, do not sign up for more than a year. We just want to experiment. You should get a domain that is actually useful. So, for example, if I were you, I'll get nitinsanghi.com if it's available. Something like that. I'm not sure if Kimball.com is still available or you already taken, but who knows. So that's how I would think, is to build our own personal portfolio, personal brand. Now that we're doing exercise in the classroom, why not build something for us? Is how I'm thinking. What do you think of the idea? Sweet deal. So take it, Cranville or Michael, whatever comes to mind that represents you as a personality, because we will use this domain to build out our brand on the internet over time. We'll add components, add services, build our portfolio, put it on LinkedIn, market ourselves, and make sure our boss knows, right? That's the idea. Is that interesting? Interesting idea or no? Good. So grab a domain on that site, line number 12. And we'll now begin after this DigitalOcean, by the way. Let's get the DigitalOcean part, so we get the motions of understanding how another service provider will work. Connect to it, feel comfortable with it, then we move along to doing other stuff. So I'm probably jumping ahead of myself. I'll pause a little bit and not rush too much information on you right now, unless you are ready for it. So you tell me. After you make sure that they got your coupon, yes, you can add credit card, because they would first consume the coupon before they charge your card, and before they do, we'll remove the card. So they don't. The idea is to use the coupon first. So this tool that you use, GitLab, is actually an open source tool. It's very popular. Many companies use it internally, including, now I know, Boeing. But yeah, it's fancy. It's useful. If you're using Git, it makes sense to use GitLab internally. Totally.
Pardon me, for the domain that we choose to pair with the extension.
I don't care. It's your brand. It's your personality. You can go with whatever you like. Don't take XXX. It is available now. Any domain you can think of is available. Like all types of names have become available these days.
Is this name thing we're doing just droplet hosting?
Sorry. No, you don't have to. No, there's no connection between two ideas are different. The name we are doing for general purpose use in the classroom for this next 3 months. There is no association directly with the name you use in the droplet with the domain name you apply to the machine that you will mount your services on. It can be the same, doesn't have to be the same. It's like machine name, not the IP address association of a domain name. Yes. Yes, please.
So, U.S. region.
Select San Francisco. It's good one.
Oh, there's one.
San
I was
Francisco.
looking for it.
Okay. So San Francisco.
No backup.
No need of backup. Just do 1, 2, 64. Select a key and boom. Your root password will be emailed to you. So that's fine. If you have a public key, you give it a public key and it will not give you a password. It will be password-less authentication in that case. But you just created a droplet. And in 55 seconds, you have a droplet going. And they'll check your email for a password. And you can just SSH root at IP address. And you're in. So the idea to enter there, to enter DigitalOcean, you would say SSH root at IP address of droplet, and it'll let you in. Very, very similar to what we did in Amazon, except now we are using password. Don't have to, but we can. If you don't use a key, it'll give you a password to begin with. Yes. Yeah, you're ready to create a droplet. You make sure before you create droplet, did you apply the coupon to begin with? You got it. Acknowledged. Check billing. Check billing. And see if you have coupon there. $10 usage. Sweet deal. So use it now. Create droplet. Choose a region. San Francisco is good, and go party. Give it a name called Nitin. $5 is good, then better than $10. This $5 is a monthly cost. So it's really, really cheap, like 007. There's a button there somewhere you left out. You want to select this instead of this. Go, yeah. Yeah, it's really, really, really cheap, right? And you have $10 to use to burn away. A lot of money if you think of 000. No need of these things. Yeah, options. You don't have to select them. You can just go straight to the bottom and say, boom, go. Do it. So Ubuntu and then 14.04, and then we are golden, mostly. Invalid hostname. Hostname may not contain spaces. So at the very top. Yeah, just anything. I like it. I like it so much that I actually advocate that. I told them I like you. So they said, here is a coupon you can use in the classroom. I said, okay, great. But I don't know, it doesn't work anymore right now for some reason. But we have internet. We can always search for a coupon, so who cares? All SSD 10. When I spoke to them that I like your services, they said, you know what, you should use our services in the classroom. I'll give you a coupon. I said, fine. They gave me $10. I said, okay. Sweet deal. Actually, 10 is a big number because the pricing is so cheap. You can actually quite a bit of usage, like 3 or 4 months of usage you can get out of, the more depending on how much you use, but useful. So did it email you a password? Check for your email. It'll have a password already from DigitalOcean for root password, and then you use line number 12 to connect to your droplet in the DigitalOcean. How fancy is that? Yep, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, choosing a domain name is such a hard thing. You want to really have it for long term, you want to get a good one, and that takes time. It's not the dollar that's expensive, it's the time it takes to find out the right name is the hard part. No, years and years ago, I took my last name as domain name, and then recently, about when we started this Cloud Genius business, I was able to get cloudgenie.us, which is kind of a difficult to say but interesting aha once you figure it out. Takes time for me to explain. How do you say that again? That is hard. And then to further complexify it, I have added a be.a dot to it, which makes it really weird to say. On the phone especially. Now, what's your domain name again? I said, oh, no, don't even go to the domain. Just search Cloud Genius and you should find it. That works. That works. But I think it's a good academic exercise to construct multiple subdomains to construct a sentence out of it. In fact, I think of the URL itself as a call to action. It's a call to action to be a cloud genius. I'm calling on you. Yeah, you can connect to the droplet through a terminal available there, or you can connect it locally. Either way, either way. You can also use your putty, right? Just like that. Just give the IP address to putty and it'll let you in. Then type in root and bingo. Yeah. Adding the key is needs to be done before the machine is created. But if you have already created, did you create the machine first or key first?
Machine.
Machine first. So what you need to do now is connect to the machine through a terminal. And when you are connected, so say it's line number 12. And then we will go and inject the key manually. You may want to do one thing to show everybody what you're doing. You can do it very easily by
Pairing.
no. Hold on, let me see if you can project your computer to my computer. I hope it will work. Yeah, it's working. So yeah, AirPlay. So this AirPlay, now you can see his screen. You can press command space and plus 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 plus. Command space plus plus plus. Now here, click here, and command space plus plus plus, and show what you're doing. What he's doing is I'll describe that he created the droplet, but now wants to add key and inject the key itself into the droplet. For which, what we are going to do is connect to the droplet manually by using a password, and then manually place the public key in the right location, so that next time you connect, that you do not need to use a password. And that's the action we want to do right now. And that's what Mike is preparing himself for. And so Mike is getting his password, and then Mike will type in that password, and that password, whatever he types, will be that password. And once Mike is connected, what Mike will do is inject the public key that you carry in your laptop into that machine that he's connecting to. And so we'll give him a few minutes to type the password, which can be really long apparently. And that's the challenge of passwords. It's very hard to deal with passwords on the internet, especially if you have like lots of computers. It's really, really hard to type them manually every time. It's painful. And that's why it is recommended to use keys. But occasionally we seem to, like humans, forget to add the key before you start a machine, or some other things happen. And then we have to find a way how to inject our public key into a created machine, that machine that got created without using our keys. It is making you change the password, or you're trying to simplify your life. Don't have to simplify your life, because leave it alone. You can break it. And now I would suggest make it a little bigger so everybody can actually see, because I'm having a hard time seeing. Yes, awesome. One more, two more. Sweet deal. And now clear the screen, please, and go to the folder called .ssh. And inside that folder, in your home, there is a file called authorized keys. You see that? And that is the place where the key is injected, or needs to be injected. So I want you to edit that file called authorized keys file in your .ssh folder and paste your key, the public key, not the private, the public key, you paste it in this file. So you should not expose your private key as you type, or you're sharing your screen. So you remember to not expose your private key. Expose only public key to the class. Because the .ssh folder will have your key, right? dot ssh. So you say cat dot ssh slash. Oh, you already know where it is, so that's fine. Fine. Yeah. So the public key is what you're exposing. You copy that over and paste it in the file that we are discussing about, the remote file. You take it end to end, just like that, all the way through the end, and then paste it. You skipped something, did you? Yeah, you should get the comment also. Yeah, get the comment also. It's good practice to keep the comment to understand who's who, and no halfway copying pasting is a bad idea. Escape, cancel. Get the whole thing again, one shot. Avoid halfway copying and pasting, especially when you're using Windows computers. When you're not, but. And now you can see that the remote file, it's slow. It's network projection. And so the remote file that you have called authorized keys. And so what we see on the bigger screen is like a second delay from what you see, Mike, on your screen. And so that's why you're anxious. I can sense. So this key got pasted manually into the authorized keys file. And now when we quit by pressing Control D to quit the remote terminal, and that will bring us back to our local machine. And next time when we say SSH root at IP address, it will let us enter, provided we give our private key to it. So it will be -I, and the path to SSH-I, and the path to private key with full path to private key, and then root at IP address, and it will let you in. It is painfully slow. Michael has already logged in, logged out twice on his computer. I think we should skip this remote display part. It was painful. But yes, you succeeded. without password this time, right? Yep, sweet deal. So we want to get to the next one now, the domain part, or you're still stuck with something?
No, I just didn't want to bother looking for the domain name. I want to use one that I already have.
Fine, totally cool. But are you?
From GoDaddy.
Yeah, it works, no problem.
Go and forward it.
The MX records.
Yeah.
Have you done? Are you using it in production or no?
Well, it's forward to a different domain name right now, but I can
I see.
update it. But it might take quite a bit of time, and I haven't done it for a while.
So I can expedite the whole thing for you by giving you a method. The method I would suggest, once we, so are we done with the DigitalOcean part, right? Did we succeed, all of us, in connecting to DigitalOcean? The droplet we create and we remotely connect to it and get the with the password, without the password, and all that. Are we okay with that? I think the connection part will need, you will need putty.
Oh, yeah, I have that. So I got the admin privileges.
Right. Aha. Okay. Sweet. So once you have putty installed, that will let you connect to a remote computer just like that. But yeah, I understand it will take some time for that to happen. So sweet. No worries. Let's move. So we'll move to the next one. And the idea that I would like to now describe to you is if we have to use an existing domain, we can expedite that activity. If you want to buy a new domain, we can get it for $1. And once we have that, the idea that I want to play out with you is something like this. So you think of the White House as the name and the number 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue as the number. So this is a name and that's a number. That's a mapping between name and number. That kind of mapping is what we need to enable. For example, this is a typical mapping of this type is called an A record, where you have a domain called, say, nitin.com pointed to some IP address. That will be one example, right? Now, to add one more type of entry, let's say we want to have a mail exchanger entry. That's another type of DNS record. And nitin.com email, for example, you want to host your email setup on some box somewhere. You need to have your MX records set correctly. Is this concept new to you? Should I go deeper or should I go next? So guide me. Sorry? You're good with it. Are most of you already familiar with these concepts? So if you want me to go deeper, I will go whichever direction. You tell me which direction you want me to go. You want to know more about these things? Understood. So what I want to now describe to you is the variety of different types of DNS records, and we'll use only 3 of them right now. One of them is a name server record type, the other one is a TXT record type, and the third one is mail exchange record type. There are several other types called CNAME, and it's a long list, it goes on, but we'll focus first on this one, the name server type. The text record and mail exchanger and CNAME and A record and SOA record, and there are lots of record types. We'll focus on the beginning first. In the name server entries, we need to have for every domain name that we get, say nitin.com, for every domain name has to have a name server. Actually, multiple name servers, 1, 2, 3, 4. You need these name servers to associate this name with that number so that we can store our zone file, a file containing zone information, so DNS zone file. We need to store these details about these types of records in the zone file, and that zone file gets stored in a name server. You familiar with this idea, or have you seen such a thing? I'll give you a quick example how to test for a name server. Let's say clear dig boeing.com name server. So you have these name servers already, and they are these addresses. It's the post office, yes, White House and 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, name to number, some mapping, right? That's the concept here. Boeing.com seems to use 3 name servers, and those names are these. We found that out by typing a simple command, which was, the command was dig domain, and then whatever we need. The command would help us in getting name server, will get us the txt record, will get us a record, will get us mx record, whatever we want. That one common command will let us get what we want. If you don't have terminal handy, you can still get this information by visiting a website. The website is called networktools.com. So go to that website, and here look at DNS records for Boeing.com. And here you can find out, get the non-cached entries. These entries are non-cached. They are better. They're more recent. Like if you change something, it'll get you fresh information as opposed to stale, old information, not cached information. So I'll say, give me DNS records for Boeing.com, and here I have it. See, the same 3 name servers came up, like we saw here. So it's a equivalent concept of getting the same information through another method. The concept is you're polling for information from the name server. What name server are being used for a particular domain? You can find that out. Simply, we can say dig and say Microsoft.com and give me the name servers, and here they are, 5 of them. Similarly, it's a dig Cloud Genius name servers, 4 of them. And these 4 names, if you look carefully, they are not maintained by me, as opposed to in case of Boeing, you saw they are maintained by Boeing. Let's go there again and confirm. See, the Boeing name servers are actually maintained by Boeing. Boeing maintains your own name servers. I do not maintain my name servers. What do I do? Oh, sorry. Boeing is maintaining your own name servers, right? Microsoft is maintaining your own name. Come on. Why is it so slow? This is crazy. Oh, there it is. It came. Microsoft is maintaining their own name servers. But I'm not. I don't want to, because I cannot afford. It's expensive to set up a machine on your own. So what I do is I rent a name server from Amazon, and they give me these entries. See, they're Amazon DNS, AWS DNS. Amazon as a service. We talked about software as a service, right? Just a few minutes ago. And so Amazon has a name server as a service available. And yes, themselves. Yeah. So that's Amazon.com, right? Yeah, they may not use it. It may actually be pointing to some other infrastructure somewhere. Who knows what people are doing? But what we know, or what I do, is use Amazon's name server as a service. And name services run on computers on port number 53. DNS queries happen to run on port 53. And so Amazon has rightfully chosen the name Route 53 for the service, which they call, which they provide name servers as a service. So the name is Route 53 in Amazon AWS console. If you log on to your Amazon console, you will find that there is a Route 53 choice, and they'll charge you 50 cents per month. for a name server as a service. For every domain you have, up to 25 domains or something like that. I don't know about the exact pricing, but yes, I pay 50 cents every month, I know that. And this is what I get, these 4 names. And these servers store my zone file. And so you can do that for your domain very easily by paying 50 cents per month. And when you're done using, you discard it, stop using it, and you don't have to pay the 50 cents every month. Unless you want to, you can. And once you do that, let me show how I do it in this particular example. So I'll go to Chrome, go to AWS console, log in. And when I log in, I see lots of services. And among those, one of those services is the service that I just told you about. And it is called Route 53. There. And this is scalable domain name system. That's what they label it as. But essentially, it is name servers as a service. So we click on that and then find out that there is an hosted zone. One zone is hosted. So I'll click on there, and I have my zone hosted there. So I'll make it a little bigger or smaller, and then go to my record sets, and this is my entire zone file. You can see every type of record I have already created that contains a bunch of information like the A record and MX record and NS record and PTR record and SOA record and lots of TXT records and one more A record, and goes on and on. So it's a huge file. We want to focus not on everything right now, but just one, which is to get our mail working. So for mail to work, there are components that need to happen. The 3 things need to happen that I described early on, and I'll walk you through those things again. So you have, let's say, give me an example of a domain name that you have already or want to use right now. You got it? Mike Cranwell, full name? Okay. So let's call it for short. I'll write mk.com, but I mean to say mikecranwell.com. And on this name, we want to have an associated set of name servers somewhere. And we need to tell the company that sold us that name, please use Amazon's name server, as opposed to whatever you give it to me for free. Don't have to do it though. It is completely optional. But I'm suggesting that we try it out because that's how large companies are using. Most large, like Boeing, like large companies, or Microsoft, like large companies, are running their own name servers. That's beyond question. Slightly other types of companies who are like San Francisco, California startups, or even medium-sized companies, or companies that are not into software development, but not as big as Boeing or Microsoft, somewhat smaller. They do not maintain their name server. They don't have to. And if you look carefully at your domain yourself as to what name servers is Mike Cranwell.com, is it .com using? Let's find out what does Mike use as name servers right now. And apparently you have it what? VeriSign domain or no domain? Did you just buy it? I see. So you bought it from 1&1. That basically means you're using 1&1 servers, name servers. They're given to you for free. And if you use that free software or free name servers from them, they're not reliable as a company. And so from a business perspective, I would not suggest that you use free unless they're really good and reputed. I would not trust name servers from 1&1 or name servers from other. There are hundreds and thousands of such companies that provide free name servers. I would not bet my business on them. I would go with a reputable provider. For example, Amazon Route 53 is a reasonably reputed provider. And I would invest 50 cents per month for a properly structured name service. Otherwise, I might run into occasionally this issue that had happened to me when I was using a free version of name server from a company called namecheap.com. So name itself says cheap. So it was free, right? The namecheap.com name servers are free. Both. Yeah, name is free, name is cheap, service is also cheap, and it ran into what is known as denial of service attack. And my site was down. My business site was down, not my personal site, and I was hurt. For 2 days, no email, and that hurts. So I said, I'm being, that was silly. Like a few years ago, that was I'm starting it up, and my domain, my main work site is not working. What's going on? I investigate, and I find it is getting hit by denial of service on that particular name server. Essentially, what was going on is the name to number translation was being denied. So anybody on the internet trying to resolve the domain name was unable to get to the name server itself. My site was actually up and running. Everything is okay. The box that contains my site, that is okay, up and running. But users cannot get to it because the name to number resolution is not happening. They cannot access the zone file itself, and the whole thing won't work. And so I have learned it hard way that don't use cheap services just because they are free. Doesn't make sense. So I migrated myself several years ago to this service that you see now, which contains Route 53 based, properly structured, and they're very resilient in the services they provide. They charge you money for that, whole 50 cents, all of it, and give you good service. So I would suggest, from a good practice of learning, to not use one-and-one name servers. You can totally use it and save 50 cents. I don't care. You can still work with it. And you can use the zone file, that name server stored in one-and-one comfortably, no problem. In fact, I can ask you to please remote project and go to one-on-one control panel, and you should be able to show what name servers you are currently using and make changes there to use the Amazon Route 53 service instead. I think so. In your company, you can potentially. I think it should be possible. Try it. Yeah, it's a business. It's technical. Yeah, per month. It's a business question, not a technical question. Technically, it will work, but business, you decide. I don't know. Technically, it should work. Yeah, it's 50 cents, man. Move. Take it. Take it on your own. Do it. You have a private account, right? A free account. Pay 50 cents. Move. You don't? Uh,
I have a I make purchases that I haven't used that.
I see. I see. Okay. Cool. I think it's a good idea to have a free account that you already might have created yesterday or the other day. Use that and keep it separate. Don't mix work and fun. The class is fun, essentially. I think it is fun. I hope you agree. Yeah, I know. Boeing is paying for the fun, which is nice. They're nice. They're really nice. Yes. So Air Server app you can install. This is not a freeware,
I
but
was just looking.
yeah, it works. You can project like this. It is pretty darn cool. You can project just like this, and like Michael is projecting. You go to Domain Center, please, and there you can make modifications to the name entries in your domain. So you will see the Domain Center, and there's a drop down. Click on the domain name itself, and then in the domain settings, you will find a drop down. At the very end, it will say Edit somewhere. And in that drop down, you have to select other name servers as opposed to one-and-one. And this is the thing that I'm suggesting that we do, is to not use one-and-one name servers because they're free. I mean, there's nothing wrong with free, don't get me wrong. Free is good. I'm all for free, but not for business. For business, I would actually take a properly maintained service. And that's what we are trying to do, is to provide names of name servers that we want to get from Amazon and give it to this. And we can do that by going to Amazon console and fill out these entries in. Oh, you're still pending, is it?
I think so. I checked the email.
Okay. Huh. Okay. So yeah, I think it is pending. So we have to maybe being processed. The idea would be to create can I disable your projection, please? Yeah, so in here, when you go back to hosted zones, I just have only one, but the idea is to create a hosted zone for mikecranville.com like this. And when you do that, you press the create button at the bottom, and it will generate 4 names that you can paste back in your one-on-one control panel, and that will switch over the name servers from the cheaper ones to professionally managed ones. So you understood what we are trying to do is to get away from the free services. Don't get me wrong, free is good, but properly done work is much better for business. If you're setting up a large company, you would go this way. Go to a properly hosted service or set up your own name servers and maintain them. Do it right. Right? I should not do that here, otherwise it might conflict. I don't know if it will conflict or not, but I don't want to disturb you, Michael. I can create a zone for you right now here, but don't want to. I would rather let you do that. Is there anybody who's ready with creating zones right now? Maybe you can project or bring your laptop to project or just work here, either way. Are you ready, or you want to do something else and wait for this approval to happen? I think Amazon is holding him up.
Question about
Huh.
so
Yeah. You got it approved, I guess. So here is exactly where you go. And yes, like
yeah.
right. True. And so you have it. You can create a zone here. And if you don't want to go Route 53, you can just stick to 1N1, as I said. You don't have to go there. You can stick to it. It will work probably for the class, no issues. I don't expect a denial of service attack right now. So if that's the case, Michael, I would suggest stick to 1N1 and let's edit the zone file that they provide to us for free. And so start projecting again, because we cannot wait for Amazon for perpetuity. And so let us stick to our one-on-one name servers, and we are not modifying them. What we need to now do is to make sure that we edit our zone file, which needs to happen somewhere in the settings for the edit the settings. I think maybe this button. Go to my domains, the domain settings, my domains, the blue, and click on the domain, and here you need to somewhere find a way to modify it. This is where MX entries go, right? So you can use MX records where you buy from a service provider. So I'll describe that concept. Yeah. Now you have an Amazon. You have these 4 entries, right? These 4 names. You want to give them to 1N1, and so that you need to tell 1N1 that we are now using Amazon's. So take them to give it to GoDaddy, and your entire existing zone will destroy. By the way, just so you know.
Yeah.
If you switch over, don't have to. If you switch over name servers, your existing zone will be discarded. You're okay with that? Do it.
But I'm not sure how to do it on data.
So I'll ask you to project. So go drop down in the AirPlay and project, so everybody can see what you're doing. AirPlay and play on air. There's an air thing. Like here, the black triangle.
Oh.
Yeah, click and say air and connect, and you will override my screen and come over online. Okay. So now you're projecting.
What's the hardware that supports that?
AirPlay? Apple TV.
Oh, you have one plugged in.
No, I'm simulating one through software.
air server is?
Yeah.
Oh,
So in here, you got
So
those.
I'm in the DNS.
Yeah, in the zone file, you want to switch over the zone.
It must be this one.
No, no, no,
The name.
no. You want to completely discard this file at altogether.
Yeah.
Go to your settings and name servers and change them. You don't want to use domaincontrol.com. Instead, use the other ones which are custom. And there, I think sluggish. I need to figure out why it is so sluggish.
Yeah, normally it's firewall.
Yeah. Yeah, so here we have the two options of using GoDaddy's cheap free name servers, or otherwise use custom name servers from Amazon. And so I would suggest in your case use custom, and then you enter custom name server names, and there are 4 of them. You have one by one, you paste it. Get from Amazon, paste it here one by one. Custom name servers. And these are custom name server names so that GoDaddy would know that for your domain you Route 53 name servers and not GoDaddy name servers. It is totally okay to use GoDaddy name servers, but there's a service level difference. Let's put it that way. And I hope you understand what I mean by service level difference between Amazon services and GoDaddy services or Namecheap services. There's a difference. The only difference that people perceive is Danica Patrick. But that's not the case. There are a lot more things. So whichever name server you use, whether it is Amazon or GoDaddy or Namecheap, the bottom line is the next thing we need is to have our mail a place to go. A simple representation would be something like this. If I can take over the screen again, and I have this domain here, and Boeing.com is another domain here. So we have 2 domains on the internet, mk.com and Boeing.com, and we have an employee here. His name is Michael, who wants to send an email to an employee here, say Conrad. And the idea how mail flows, if that is too trivial, just tell me. But otherwise, the idea is you use SMTP protocol for Michael to send an email out that goes out, connects to a mail server somewhere that mk.com is maintaining, and then using the MX records for Boeing.com, it finds out where the machine is for that particular domain where the mail needs to go, and it reaches that destination and sits there until Conrad comes along and catches or fetches the email from Boeing servers. That's how mail typically flows. I mean, that's very, very trivial example, a representation of mail flow from a SMTP protocol, which used to be port 25. These days it is port number 485 or 587 for transport layer security based transports of email. These ports are used. You may have seen these settings in your iPhone or Android as you set up Gmail. You might have run into these settings. Do you remember? Or setting up Outlook with Gmail. The idea is using a mail client to connect to a mail server to send email. You need to use a port to exit, let the mail go out. Earlier, we used to use port 25 to send mail over SMTP transport protocol. These days, we are using either this port 587 or port 485 under transport layer security to transmit out emails to our servers. And when that happens, from the sender to the recipient, from this domain mk.com all the way to boeing.com, if the sender is sending through his domain over to Boeing and the mail needs to receive here, the actual access can happen through POP IMAP or other methods that Microsoft supports, like mail, what's the name? Exchange Active Sync, Exchange Web Services, and a variety of methods of accessing emails from an email server that comes down to recipient's client. Now, the actual transport from here to here needs to depend on the MX entries for this domain. So in case we want to set up mikecranville.com as the recipient, we want to have MX records set correctly. And for email to start flowing between computers, we need to have this particular business entity. They need to have a domain, a place to store your email. You probably just created a domain, which means that you do not have a place to host your mail, right? Or do you already have it? Do you have it, Philip? Do you have a place which can act as your mail server? You probably do not. Yes, the one that you GoDaddy mail that you get is, it works. I'm not complaining, but larger organizations do not use GoDaddy email, right? And larger organizations will use something like Office 365. I guess you use Office 365. I suspect you use it. Not yet. But you will use Exchange servers in your company that are mounted somewhere, and those are your mail servers. Some other companies will use Google Apps. And both of these provide a 30-day trial for us to try out right now. So what we can do is something like this. Go to google.com/a. The address is this. In that location, you can sign up in, like, for a free 30-day trial for a Google Apps for work. And that will give you a place to store and receive emails and send emails and everything for 30-day free. That's a good exercise to do in the class. We have ample time. 30 days is way too much. We just need a few days to just experiment with email. So the idea would be to sign up here and tell them that we are now bringing our domain to you, Google. Take my domain, give me MX entries, and I will take those MX entries and apply to my name server. Either it is GoDaddy or Namecheap or 1&1 or Route 53 or whatever we have, and we have our email flowing just like that in 10 minutes. See that? You want to give it a shot? Go ahead. Is that, if it is not interesting, just tell me that it's not interesting. We'll switch to another topic.
No, it is.
Okay.
Now I have to sign up for the Google.
I know. Use the Cloud Genius email to receive all junk. So you don't have to give your personal emails to these service providers. I understand you can be, receiving spam cannot be the best experience you want. So you can use
Google Spot.
Yeah.
I mean, I done this all
Right.
few months ago, but with 2 people.
Right.
Now the other guy know more than me, so I didn't learn much.
Maybe it's a brush up. Maybe it's a brush up. Yeah, it's a good brush up. So give it a shot. It is very simple. I'll walk you through again if you want. The idea is, yeah, I'll give you a few minutes to sign up. You like the idea that we're doing, or is that useful? Sweet, do it. It's, I know. You forget the what was the thing I was saying? Forget your Amazon. Stick to your 1&1. That should do it. Yeah, click here and that will do. Yeah. Click.
I created my own.
I see. So you create a hosted zone and go to nitin.com and bingo. And then this will give you. create a hosted zone, nitin.com, or whatever. What did you get? What is domain name? What domain name did you get? Okay, so that is, I think, the first step. You need to give this create zone button, you need to give a name to it. And the name would be something like nitinsanghi.com. You need to have the domain first. I'm not sure if Nitin Sanghi is taken. Yeah, you don't know. You don't know. I was thinking like that. First time I tried londe.com, my last name. It doesn't mean that you have a domain available. What you just did doesn't tell you whether the domain is available or not. This is not a name. This is not a name registry. There are two records already in the domain. Go to record set, you will find two. One is a SOA record and a TXT record, I think. But this doesn't get you a domain, by the way. You did not buy a domain yet.
When does that happen?
You need to spend $1.
Okay. So right now I just got a name.
No, you did not get a name. You got a zone. A zone is a place to store your zone file. You did not buy a name yet. Names are sold by name sellers. This is a name server, not a name seller. So a name seller will sell a name. Those are Internet Authority for Names and Numbers. ICANN. ICANN. That's the full acronym. Internet Authority for Assigned Internet Authority. So look it up. ICANN is a name. There is a full acronym. That authority regulates vendors that sell names. GoDaddy is the most famous name seller. What you just did is not.
This is the potential domain name that I want.
Yes. It's already created. Already created. So you should now go to a seller and see if they will sell you that name. And the seller I would recommend right now would be oneandone.com because they charge you only $1. GoDaddy will probably charge you $3, so I don't know what they charge. So the idea would be to buy a domain for $1 from oneandone.com. One A and D, one. Yeah. You can buy domain names from multiple places. Today, one and one seems to be the cheapest.
Just for information, I think I'm finding $12 per month.
No, they're in the wrong place. It's $1 per year. Are you getting some hosting?
That seems to be the least expensive option that they
No. So go to one. Let me also check with you. So I'll cross check. Do not pay more than $1. Do not spend money. One and one. See what they have today. Yes, they do. See that .com? Go to the .com name here and say Mike or say nitinsanghi.com and I will check and I'll beat Nitin and squat on his hey, it's available. You want me to pay before you pay? Yeah, but I can pay before you pay and then I'll charge you $2, right? Jack up the price. I know. This is called domain squatting. I sold it. Yeah, it did happen. But most names are gone these days. Those names are becoming available under different TLDs. Like I said, you can have a TLD as the COM is a TLD, or IN for India is a TLD. You can get top level domain. You can get top level domains for whatever you like. Lots of choices just became available like in a few months ago. You can get like nitinsanghi.doctor, nitinsanghi.attorney, or something like that. those names became available just a few months ago. It should be like 99 cents per year for the first year. Subsequent years, we don't care. And if you care, they will probably charge you $15. Somebody else will charge you only $6, and so you transfer the domain over there, and then keep it for long term if you like your name. If you don't like the name, just throw it away. Is it too trivial for you, sir? I suspect that.
Some of it.
Yeah. Oh, I want you to find value, and I want to make it so for you. If you're finding it too trivial, I want to speed up, or maybe drive it differently, or something like that.
Well, I probably have, I'm more advanced.
I can see that totally, totally, totally see that.
So I didn't want you to leave them.
That makes sense. And I appreciate that very much. I don't want you to feel left out or like, oh, this guy is very slow. I want you to feel happy and comfortable, and I think you're doing it already, but I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. I can totally see that, and that's why I'm asking you what the right course that you would like us to take, and we'll drive accordingly. I really wanted to beat Nitin Sanghi and like get that domain for $1 and charge him $2. That would be ideal. Make a buck. Yeah, exactly. Uh, It is not. It is DNS related. But what happens is once you have a domain name, you can then configure it to manipulate and run services on your domain. Like say, for example, you spin up a specific machine set in Amazon Cloud. You can then have an A record pointing to that instance. That's where name becomes easy and handy. It is part and parcel of any naming convention. That's why so it begins an exercise with associating with mail servers. No, no. But we keep it public. People need to know who you are, unless you want to disclose, unless you want to hide. I would keep it open to the world. Using a domain name will help us in like referencing infrastructure in the cloud. And the exercise we do you see the reason what we are doing and why we are doing it? See. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead, then please ask me the question again, and I'll go back to the whiteboard and illustrate the point.
So, the routine a little redundant to go all the way through the process of setting up the email server, the entire email server, and maybe something simpler, like associating it with serving some basic file or something like that.
A basic file meaning
Like about me file.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I see. So the way I would describe this is like this. What you're suggesting is instead of having a name like nitinsanghi.com and configuring the MX records, and the simpler way would be to associate an A record with an IP address and move forward. Is that what you're suggesting? Yeah, that is a possibility. We don't have to do this part. If you're super familiar with setting up MX records, there's no reason to do it. But if you have a domain, It's a good practice to enable email for that by enabling MX records correctly, and then setting up an A record and pointing to an IP address, or setting a CNAME record, CNAME record, and pointing it to, say, your About Me page, or something like that. It is totally rational to do it that way. If you prefer that, and if you want to not do the work of creating an MX record and creating Google Apps domain to host your email, you don't have to do it. But if you want to do it, it's very easy. The idea would be you have your name servers that you have that you can either store with 1N1 that you already have, or you want to not use these, instead use Route 53 and these places like GoDaddy as another example. These places give you a place to store your zone file, and in that zone file you get a place to store your MX records, those 1, 2, 3, 4 lines that we have with priority 1, 10, 20, and those entries can be created like this. And you can have a simple A record pointing to your DigitalOcean droplet. That's a very simple exercise, right? You have a droplet created already. You can point that IP address and create a record which would say your domain name has this A record, say www.nitinsanghi.com, points A record to the IP address in DigitalOcean, whatever that number is, and that should open up that particular pointer. There's nothing in there, so it will not show you anything, but in concept, the command will work, meaning command that you would say dig and then your name server or your domain name itself and say A record will give you the thing you need, which is this entry, which is essentially asking your domain name to point to an IP address. That's very trivial, very trivially possible. You see what I'm doing, Nitin? You get that? And if you do the same thing we just discussed, but in this time, look at MX records. It'll be these entries, which are, in my case, these entries on Google. These 5 entries for mail exchange are created in my zone file for letting my mail go to Google. That's how I operate with my email. So it's on google.com, hosted on Google, but for my domain, right? So if the consensus is to not do MX entries, that's okay. We can move on. If you want to do it, I'm ready for it. What's the con? Yes, I think that is a challenge. That is a challenge. Occasionally we run into those issues by the way, what was the domain again that you have, nitinsanghi.com? So let's see what they are doing with nitinsanghi.com. It is available. The name server is not active, but let's see what else is available. No, it's propagating. Yeah. It's still propagating. The GoDaddy knows that you exist. Is it GoDaddy or who's this? GTLD servers? No, it doesn't know yet. You bought it from 1N1, right? Yeah. So 1N1 servers or name servers should show up in this area, but they do not yet show, which means they're still propagating. Propagation takes time sometimes. Yeah, I think yes, I'll simplify and summarize what we just discussed so that we have a clear picture. What we did is we bought a domain from 1N1. We paid $1. And we got a domain name nitinsanghi.com. this comes bundled with one and one name servers. There are 4 entries we have that already comes bundled with it. It probably comes bundled with some email services also, which means there are some MX entries made available to you, and these email will flow from one and one servers to you. That's probably already set up by definition. Now, having said that, most businesses do not use one-and-one or GoDaddy-like services. Instead, they use either their own Exchange server, which is very dominant, Exchange 2003 or whatever that number is, 2007, or some companies use Office 365. Some other companies use Google Apps for work. And these two are very common these days, where people are using it, software as a service, for enterprise email, calendar, contacts, drive that Boeing doesn't seem to like, that drive. Then you have Hangouts that we will do on Saturday. Does Hangout work on your laptops, or you probably have another machine at your home that you can probably use, right? So these types of services are being made available by this company, Google, for workplace. Similar to these services, very, very similar to these services, are services from Office 365 that are made available to businesses. You get email, you get calendar, you get address book, you get contacts, you get SharePoint, and you also get my product as a part of the overall offering, which is conceptually similar to Hangout, this one. And the idea would be, for each and every of these services, you have to enable certain types of records. And so, for example, the concept for MX that we discussed for mail exchanging, you need to have 4 or 5 entries that these service providers will give you. So, for example, Office 365 will give you some MX entries while you're setting up email with them. Same thing happens with Google Apps for Work. When you're setting up email from Google, they will give you certain entries that you will put in your zone file in the MX records, and then your email will start getting managed at that particular service provider, whether it is this or this. If you don't change the MX entries, it will stay whatever that was, like one and one or GoDaddy, and it will stick there and it will work like that. But businesses will use these modern services from these companies. Similarly, you have a calendar service, and contacts are built into email, so you'll get them by definition. The moment you set up email, everything else automatically falls in place. In cases of Google and Office 365, you may need to create a CNAME to make it easy for your users in your company to access the calendar. Otherwise, the calendar name can be really long. For example, it will be something like this. See, the actual name was this, whereas I would like it to be simpler and more meaningful to my employees in my company, and I would like that to be something like this. And you can enable that by creating a CNAME record, right? And that can be possible if you create a CNAME record and map the name calendar itself to the appropriate property that Google or Office 365 will suggest. In case of contacts, I think Google doesn't let you get a proper CNAME. It is built into the email system. In case of SharePoint, there are certain entries you need to create in your zone file to make SharePoint work correctly. In case of Link, there are even more entries that I think you need to make, and I'll probably give you that information here. if you're familiar with DNS needs some SRV records and some other requirements to create. Have you done this part already, like create an SRV record like this for link? Something like this. Are you familiar with that concept? To create an SRV record for link to work? Or is that a good exercise you want to do? Or you want to focus on not this but something else? Just tell me that, and I can change the direction if you want. The thing I'm suggesting is that in case of link and in case of Office 365, there are certain different types of records that are not common, that needs to be created for link to work with your clients. And those settings are actually not that complex, but here is a type of records you need to create for link to work. And several of them, like first one is an A record type for link discover. In order for link client to discover where is the link server, that's a type, A record type. Then you have a SIP endpoint defined for link to be able to connect to the link server. Then we have some SRV records that are needed to make sure that you have the UDP traffic and the TLS traffic appropriately reaches your domains. You want to learn this, or you want to not do this? That's the question I have. Yes, I will do that. So this is the best resource today on the internet. This is Wikipedia, by the way. It looks different. I have a plugin to make Wikipedia look different. But essentially, this is the authoritative definition of what an SRV record is. It's a service record, defines different protocols and where to find an endpoint to connect to, either using UDP or TCP, whatever protocol that you're using from your link client, like this client that you have. This client is trying to connect and signing in to a service on a domain that I have hosted in Office 365, and it is connecting up. It is actually looking for the SRV records, and there it got connected and signed in. So the transaction that just happened between this link client and Office 365 depends on what entries do I have for that particular domain for SRV and for A and other types. I'll go and show that to you. So that's the A record entry that we have. The SRV entries, I'll probably find out where the zone is, and I'll just show you the zone file. It's there directly instead of showing you these one by one entries. So where is my zone file? Okay, it is Namecheap. That's where it is stored. So I'll go to Namecheap. And that's where the zone file is stored. I'll expose that zone file to you so you can take a look. And here are the entries for the types that I have created. And you will find that there is an auto discover CNAME I created, which helps me discover which exact machine in the Microsoft Cloud that I need to go and connect to through the alias autodiscover.outlook.com. Then I have link discover with an alias to this line called webdir.online.link.com. Then we have MSOID as client configuration.microsoftonline-p.net And these details are provided as you set up the services from Office 365. They will provide these details to you. Is this something that is interesting to you? Do you want to do that, or you want to skip this topic? That's the question I have for the group. I want to know. It's hard. I think that the challenge I'm running into is some people are saying yes and some people are not expressing interest. And so I want to not bore other people at the same time help you out. So I don't know how to deal with this problem. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. What do you think? You want to skip this? Makes sense. Makes sense. The real key learning is to understand that you can use DNS to manipulate the behavior of a domain with a variety of services. That's the one-line statement. Now, what you can see in this example is, in case of Link and Office 365 and the other related services like email, calendar, contact, SharePoint, and maybe I'm missing some services that Office 365 provides, but you can enable a variety of services on a given domain and have them working based on the record types you need, because the moment a particular client application will start looking for a service in the cloud, it will expect some parameters to be visible to that application through a zone file, and this is an example zone file you're looking at. It will expect auto discover to automatically discover where should I go and look, and that name is standardized as autodiscover.outlook.com, and that's what Microsoft has done. Even though my domain is not outlook.com, that's the standardization. And they have given that to me so that my email or Outlook client will automatically configure itself. And this is a standard practice that Microsoft uses to allow Exchange clients such as iPhones, Androids, or Outlook to automatically configure with any cloud service that Microsoft provides. The moment you are setting up an iPhone and you say my email address nitin@nitinsanghi.com and password, if you configure the auto discovery protocol correctly, you don't need to tell it that I'm hosted on Microsoft. It will automatically discover that part and connect it and set your email client on your phones automatically. That's the benefit. So it's a point of user experience in your company. If you have employees who are using your cloud services and they have client endpoints in their hands, such as iPhones or iPads or Androids or Outlook clients or Surface tablets or whatever you might have in your companies, it makes it easy for your employees to make use of your services that your company provides to your employees in the cloud. So it's a method of discovering what services are available to my employees and what devices and services can be used in my domain. So this is a point where you define these things at the very foundation of it in the zone file itself. And once you have the auto discovery, then it will know that, okay, that is my server where I need to go. Fair enough. Now I need to configure other things, such as link discover is a specific name called out by link as a requirement, so that whenever link client starts, you just saw me starting that client, and there is an implementation of link client on iPhone, on Android, on Windows. It's already there. You probably use it. And so first time you set up a new computer, when you start link, it expects to know where do I go. And if you don't have this auto discover or link discover entry here, this link discover entry that is missing in your domain, it will struggle to find how do I log in and fail. Have you run into that issue ever? Because it is already configured for Boeing, I guess, right? So let's see what Boeing has done. Copy that here and clear it and say dig linkdiscover.boeing.com. And there we have it. Oh no. You probably have some other method of discovering it. Your link discover A record is empty. Was it a CNAME? Yes, it's a CNAME. Okay, hold on. Then clear again and say CNAME. And it is also empty. Apparently in your company you have some other method of somehow telling your clients and your phones and your laptops to automatically discover it. But if you, otherwise it fails. If you are unable to discover where is my link server, your link clients in your laptops will be unable to connect You have to specifically call out, go to that server, and here is the login, and here's the password, and then it will allow you. But the initial discovery is made transparent by these protocols. SIP is another subdomain that is expected for transportation of initialization of call control. Like you can make phone calls using Link. You do already, right? Do you have a desk phone in your offices at all? Or you don't anymore? You do. Some of you do. So in certain companies, they have gotten rid of phones completely. And those companies use Link as their primary desk phone. And that phone transportation of audio traffic and the control traffic, there are two parts to a phone transmission or a phone communication. One is control protocol and the other is data protocol. So those two things, the control happens through SIP protocol, SIP, Session Initiation Protocol, which is this one, SIP, and the actual transport happens over RTP, real-time protocol. Two different protocols where the voice actually goes, and the control of phone call, which number do I call and when do I hang up and when do I send dial tones and things like that. That method transports over SIP, the control part, and the data flows through RTP protocol, a different protocol on the same server. And the other end in the cloud, where Link servers are set by Microsoft, listen for traffic coming from your client, and your client will be the Link client on your phones or on your laptops. And they're actively capturing sound from your mouth and converting into a series of packets and transporting over RTP protocol to the Link server. And call control, like you dial a particular number using your mouse. That call control, initialization of call control and establishment of an end-to-end communication channel happens through SIP protocol, again from your client all the way through Microsoft's cloud in Link, through the SIP protocol, for which these definitions are needed to make SIPDIR online.link.com as the address or the CNAME alias for the server, where it is expecting a CNAME. And the idea behind these entries is to make users happy, to make them comfortable, so that most of these services will just run without bothering users to, hey, what was the entry I need to put here, or do what thing there. And so to make an organizational set of users comfortable in using services such as Link in the cloud from Amazon, from Microsoft, these entries are recommended from the developers of Link. And that's what you see implemented here in this particular example. Does that give you a perspective of what we are doing and how it's put in place for an organization to enable services through users? Because essentially what is happening in the industry, as you know already, is there are these devices that people carry and then services in the cloud mostly, and people are getting rid of servers in their infrastructure, like many companies have. I'm sure Boeing will eventually get to that point. You probably still use Exchange servers, and you probably use internal Link servers. You probably do not use cloud-based Link solutions today, as I understand, from what I'm gathering from you. And so your method of interoperating is different. That's why you don't see those entries, because you have the in-house servers already. So you probably have, I don't know what you have, but I'm speculating what you have. Yeah, I can totally speculate because I used to make this product. Link is my product. So I can see what you have. I can speculate what you have, but I don't know what you have. So does that give you a good picture of what we are trying to do with having a name in our hand and manipulating a variety of record types to enable services of different types in the cloud? Or it doesn't have to be cloud all the time. Like in cases of enterprises that are established, you use internal infrastructure and Exchange server, Link server. You have these boxes somewhere in your data center that connect, through which you connect your Link clients. Do you use Link client on the phones also, or not there yet? Are there people in your company that use it? Okay. Link, like on this, Link is available. Huh? Yeah, no, any phone you can have link on Android and iPhone, and you can run link here and talk.
Mostly BlackBerry.
Okay. So I think, yeah, it's a traditional enterprise, I guess, in Boeing. So yes, yeah, the things have like rapidly evolved. So most companies in the software space, I think, have transitioned away, almost away from setting up your machines in office. They do not. That's where cloud comes into play, right? You let somebody else manage your infrastructure, let somebody else do the grunt work, and you focus on your customers. That's the idea behind a business these days, right? And so from using services such as I mentioned Link, you can use your data plan on the phone, not have to spend any money on minutes on the phone, and still talk. And the voice will get transmitted through Link to the Link servers in Windows. Sorry, not Windows. It's called Office 365. Through those servers, you can transport your audio transmission, and bilateral, two-way communication will happen, audio and video also, all through the phones. It is here and available now. You can use it if your organization will let you. You can use it. They currently don't. They'll eventually adopt it, and it will happen one day. But the companies are doing it today already. You saw me using it. I can run link here and connect to my own private link domain. It works. That the entire end-to-end. I can do a video conference. I think I can chat with you. I'm not sure if that works, but let's see. I should be able to chat with, say, conrad.kimball@boeing.com. Let's see. Not federated. You're hiding from the world. If it is federated across domain, then anybody in other domains can chat with you just like that. And cross-domain federation, if it's enabled, it's totally possible to just do a video call or a screen sharing session using Link across companies, provided the companies trust each other. Yeah, I used to do that. I already do with many companies, by the way, but not every company is there. So I can do with Microsoft, with Intel, with Dell, and many other companies. So you can, cross-domain federation is totally enabled, but the other company needs to trust you, and you need to trust them. And if that happens, this will work. This summary is Boeing doesn't trust me, but you get the idea. You get the idea. So I think what I want to do next is think of how I want to keep you engaged and satisfied. I think I see this difference in, I broadly see two groups here, right here. One that says, yes, I want to do it, and the other says, no, I don't want. So I don't know how to deal with this problem. And I'm thinking out loud right now. What should be the approach? Because I want to make each one of you fully engaged and not,
So my line is, it would help understand where you're going.
aha.
So what I've been thinking so far is classes typically start with some level setting, bring people up to speed and then get set off the group and something. So that's how I've been seeing the last session.
Yes.
And that's okay. Some people will, sometimes, for some people, level setting will be redundant. You gotta get it right to some common start. But where are we going?
Right.
So if we had some kind of a syllabus.
Yeah. I totally understand. The way I would think of this is in the first month and the second month and the third month that I have talked about, described to you in some shape or form, is to give you hands-on experience on a variety of different cloud services providers, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. And beginning with software as a service is the direction I was heading towards, meaning once we have these MX records going with Google Apps, we get to play with how Google software as a service is made available to us. That was the direction I'm heading, and I still want to go there if you're okay with that. But what I felt was it is too trivial, and that's okay. We can skip that part if you don't want to do it. But Google Apps and Office 365 are two dominant softwares available as service, are examples of SaaS. Subsequent to that, the next logical step would be to deal with some platform as a service examples like Heroku or Google App Engine or Windows Azure, and see how developers would take their applications and load it up on Heroku and play with it and understand how and why would somebody do that. How are small companies with like 2 people in the garage able to build out something as large as Twitter and run their services? What did they do? How did they create the apps and load it up on some platform as a service to begin with and roll it out as big as what Twitter is today? That's another way of that's on my agenda, is to be able to work with you to work and use some platforms available as a service as a next logical step after we deal with some sampling of SaaS like Office 365, Google Apps, Salesforce.com, WordPress.com, DrupalGardens.com, a bunch of different variety of software that are available, are very commonly used in the industry. Sample them, understand what we have, switch over to platforms available, create some sample apps, or you create our own apps, load them on a variety of platforms, get a sense of what platforms are out there available and how developers are using them. So we can take an example of a Ruby on Rails app and load it up on Heroku and play with it, see how a developer would scale it, and then add more dynos to it. So you can have one dyno for $33 a month, but the first dyno is free. You can scale it up to add one more dyno and add one more dyno. That's how scales. That's how Heroku scales an application, adding more dynos or essentially adding more instances in the cloud at the back end. And Heroku itself runs on Amazon Cloud, on the EC2 cloud. So we'll take that as an exercise and do it to understand what platform as a services variety that we have. So I mentioned 3 names: Heroku, Google App Engine, and Windows Azure. Then we can go on to the next level, which we kind of did the very first day and a part of it today, which is infrastructure as a service, to understand EC2, understand DigitalOcean, and that we probably already have a good understanding of already. So IaaS as the concept as we get it. The next thing would be to now manipulate the infrastructure that these services provide us through using the concept of what I call principles of operations management. So the concept of what I describe as DevOps. We have developers and we have operations people. The classic challenge that most companies run into today, and it's already there even in large companies such as Microsoft, is that developers and operators are different from each other. They're different organizations. They're silos. They don't seem to easily talk to each other. They don't collaborate much efficiently. Whereas if you go south and go to California and look at the newer generation of companies that are developing services in the cloud, you will see this happening already, where you can spin out new versions and iterations of your services and provide it to your end users at a moment's notice. End-to-end continuous integration is possible today, and we can play those scenarios through techniques and tools and practices that developers and operators collaborate together in the area of operations management. You might have heard of this thing called Toyota Production System. You probably use it already in Boeing, right? Yeah, Boeing is big in that, and I already know that. You call it lean. The same principles essentially are adopted in software development, and the modification here is that you apply those concepts and principles to developing software. So think of Boeing as a big factory, and you put raw materials in, and at the end comes out a beautiful plane. Right? That's the factory. So think of software development as another factory, except you get the software at the end, but what does go in? Yes, totally right. Pizza and something else goes in, and what that thing is ideas, right? It's an idea factory. At the end of the day, if you're producing something, these ideas or concepts flow in from people's minds, and developers take pizza and mush it together to produce a service. That's what a factory is in software. It's the idea factory. You create some services for your end customers in a fashion that you can operate and create and deliver these services synchronously by using modern tools in the domain of DevOps. That's the big next thing we want to be able to deal with. And there is a open source tool set available that we will use. The tool set is called Chef. Our virtual machine is already set up with Chef, but forget the virtual machine. We'll set up again it in Amazon Cloud or DigitalOcean Droplet or wherever we like. It's very easy to set up, not that big a deal. I'll do it for you. I'll work with you to make it happen. Once that Chef toolkit is set up, we'll create small repositories that will help us configure any machines. So we will use, let's designate one machine in DigitalOcean, for example, as our workstation. Like the workstation, like this is my workstation. Now, since we cannot use this as a Linux workstation, we'll designate that one machine in DigitalOcean for each one of us as our workstation, and we'll log on to that machine first, and that becomes our workstation. And from there, we'll orchestrate our entire cloud. How do we do that? We'll use Chef to orchestrate a variety of cloud service providers. And Chef comes with a tool called Knife. Literally, that's the name. If you haven't heard of it, did you? So that Knife toolset lets you manipulate, configure a variety of cloud services out there. Underlying that toolset is a library called Fog, which is a Ruby library, fog.io, which allows a variety of cloud providers to connect through Ruby language to Chef. And that's what Chef uses underneath, under the covers. What we will use is use Chef as a toolkit and create small GitHub repositories, just like we did one, to keep our cookbooks and our recipes together in one place and manage them and take those recipe sets or the repositories in Git and clone it to our workstation there in DigitalOcean and operate from that workstation onto a cloud infrastructure to roll out how we can use Chef in a development, production, operations combination environment, apply concepts of DevOps principles and roll out services with incremental changes happen as they go along. Like ideas come to minds of people, and ideas can come at the very beginning of the cycle and all the way to the end of the cycle when the services are being produced. So you can see today, Google, very well-known examples. Google can change their interface just a moment notice, and Microsoft takes 1 or 2 years to produce a new piece of software. At least it's a slow company by definition. Comparatively, look at Google. They are able to dynamically generate new software and push out new services to you much more rapidly than any other company, because they're adopting principles of DevOps to enable their end-to-end pipeline or their supply chain of software services to the customers. At any time in the supply chain cycle, people come up with new ideas. They're able to in a very agile fashion inject new ideas into the work they're doing and enable each one of their developers to push out changes all the way to the production environment. You cannot envision in other large companies. Some companies have done it. We want to understand how they're doing it, how they're adopting these principles and practices to make it happen. What does it take to make that happen? Like at any time, if you want to change something in Windows, it takes 2 years. Something like that. It's a long time. Today, in the market today, people are dynamic. People expect quick results, and that's where the core of this class essentially comes to that point, is to be able to understand what processes, what tools and techniques are being used in the industry to make that agility end-to-end from idea all the way to service delivery happen. So a new employee starting in, say, Google has the ability to push out changes on the very first day, all the way to google.com output. The very first day they're able to do it. You might have heard of interns coming in for a 15-day project and spin up and deal with petabytes of data and come out with some meaning out of data in a Google internship project. And that's not magical, it's possible. They're doing it already. We want to understand what they're doing to apply those principles in the work we do in our companies so that we can maybe learn from other companies as to how they are doing it. Does that give you a good summary of what we are heading, where we are heading? It might like the MX record I sensed, it is too trivial. And I get that. Yes, it is trivial. It's just a case of copying and pasting, and we're done. Once we know it one time, we can do it again any number of times. Not that big a deal.
Like, how much of this stuff are we going to need later on? It's okay to say we have to set up some stuff that we're going to do later.
We may not need. All we need is a name to point to if we need to. We can use raw IP address. We don't even need DNS, honestly. For all practical purposes, we know how to deal with IP address directly. We don't need DNS. No. But end users expect it. And that's why we need to know how to make it happen. As technical people, we can deal with IP addresses directly. We don't need a name. Honestly, we don't. So yes, we don't need it. But some of us require it because users expect it. They don't want to type an IP address. They want to type in a
My perspective, I think everyone more about cloud. Now, DNS is the DNS stuff is a piece part of cloud stuff. They aren't just a side excursion into, well, this is how this is stuff you need to do stuff doing the business.
I know, I get that, and I think the way I'm driving towards Google Apps as a service, Office 365 as a service, is to allow you to run your domains there and those services, and then compare and understand what these services are, which is one of the dominant players in the cloud industry from software as a services in that segment, and that's where I'm heading with the setting up of domain names for yourself. So you also get the benefit of having your own name pointing to a functional service that you can actually practice with it. That was the idea. That is still the idea, by the way. Does that now get you as to why we are using DNS in the mix? I see. So yeah, I think we'll do what you need, because I want all of you to be happy with the course. Otherwise, we'll not run it. We'll not run the course if you don't like it. There's no need. There is no reason to. So if it is not exactly what you think you need it to be, then we'll change the course or don't do it. There's no need. So I want to understand, does that resonate with you as to what we are thinking, what we are driving towards? If that is true, let's move forward.
So for me, all this, I'm pretty much theory guy. I read about stuff and I know a lot of this, but hands-on, I haven't done it. So they just forced me to do hands-on. So I like it.
You like it.
But also looking at, well, the company pay for me to be educated. I want to have something good for the company.
I know. Yes, it is
so
important.
I'm looking for depth of Docker and all those.
Yes. Yes.
Enterprise level.
Yes.
One.
Yes. Yes. So Docker is an implementation of containers that we will discuss. So right.
What I managed to describe earlier. But when we get there,
Right. So yes. I think there are open source projects like Docker users you can create a platform as a service inside Docker, and that project is called Flynn, Flynn, which is another open source project. It will let you create a Heroku on your own, like your own platform as a service that you can run internally in Boeing, for example. And many companies are doing this already, implementing Docker and running internal applications using Docker and running your own Heroku clones. Like we described Heroku as a public service, public platform as a service. You can do a private little Heroku in your domain, in your company, within your boundaries, inside Docker infrastructure using Flynn. And we'll use that as a case in the class as we discussed.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
So I guess I'm in it for, coming from building for largely physical structure.
Right.
And they're somewhat reluctant to get into the cloud.
I understand.
Computing market. So for me, it's valuable to see why and see how cloud differs from physical infrastructure that a lot of companies are still relying upon to kind of see the differences and how that infrastructure gets set up virtually.
Yes.
And why maybe we're reluctant to what we can do to get past that.
See. And I think that part we will indeed cover. The thing that we will not cover is actual physical infrastructure because we don't have it. We cannot bring it here. Right. We already know it. You know it already. Right. The thing that I think I will bring value to you and to Boeing is the area of this exposure to tools and techniques that other companies are using already. Huh? I think it is. I think it will be, and then, I'll maybe I'll tweak the curriculum as I understand you a little bit to accommodate what you want to accommodate. If you have an idea we want you to cover, we will do that. At the end, I want to make you get something from the money your company is spending for you. There is no reason to do anything else. It is for you. It is not for me. I'm not going to bore you if you don't want it. No, this is not an academic course, as you already heard first day. It is not an academic course. There is nobody telling me what to do here. The only person who is telling me what to do is you. You tell me what to do, and I'll do that. There's nobody else guiding me. Yeah, do this or do that. There is no requirement. It is for you. So you tell me what you want, what you don't want. I can change it. I have the ability and capability to do it for you. There's nobody regulating me here to don't do this or do that. There is no such thing. We don't have it. This is not a university. I'm an industry professional, not a professor. I told you first day. So if you still like it, tell me what you want. We'll do that, exactly what you want. I don't want to go any other direction. You decide, and I'll help you. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Do you still like me? That's the question. That's what I'm really worried about, by the way, if you did not realize that. That's what I'm really worried about. It's my reputation. That's what counts. I know I'll have to work with him separately, and so I will bring him up to speed. I have to create an account and all that good stuff he missed on the first day. I'll do that for him, and so I will make sure he's happy and taken care of also.
My impression is that one of the challenges, particularly on an enterprise level, is that there is a wide variety of different impressions of what cloud services and cloud technology actually do. And so one of the values that I see already in what you're doing here is that all of these tools and all of these are building components that are necessary to use this cloud service, and also that certainly next generation users.
Mm-hmm.
I did some support for both of the past. They were great, but I had some discussions with the aspect of communicating with physical infrastructure and internal company infrastructure, both digital as well as other forms,
Mm-hmm.
and external, in my case, suppliers that I would manage for from inside, and other kinds of external. Well, those communications goes to cloud as well as it can non-cloud bases. Those same kinds of components, those I suspect are part of the attached. That's something that we could occur.
Mm-hmm.
So I value all.
Sweet deal. Sweet deal. So keep me posted on the thinking that you have in top of your mind. Whatever you have in your mind, say that, because I want to understand it. If I do not understand it, I'll go in the wrong direction. I don't want to go wrong direction. I can change the course with your help. Right? So if you don't want something, tell me. Not this, that. We'll go there. But broadly, I gave you a sketch of where we are heading. We are heading to give you an overview of what companies who are agile, and I'll give you Google as an example, Etsy as an example, Amazon as another example, Microsoft as the slow example. They're doing it already in software development. Microsoft is picking up speed. Over time, they will pick it up finally. Not there yet. It still takes time to build Windows, and it's nightly operation. It's not momentary operation. You cannot just do a git push and it just goes to some repository and make it roll it out automatically. That continuous integration workflow is not there yet. It is coming. Eventually, it will come. But some companies, especially on the cutting edge, have adopted these concepts and principles to roll out services as the customers demand. And the same concept, I'm doing it right now to you. I'm listening for feedback and trying to give you what you want. Just like this, I'm listening for what you want to be covered, and I will do it. That's the method, essentially, broadly speaking, is from the delivery of services to your customers. You actively look for feedback from the customer. You bring back to your developers and ask your developers to create the material your customer wants and push through Git. Essentially, it's all Git pushes. And the Git pushes will enable whatever needs to happen to make the services go out to the customer in alignment with what they want. And so the best way to find out what customers want is to just ask them, what do you want? And do it. There's no magic to it. Right? But I don't want to do something that you don't want. That's a fundamental. I will not do it. If you say don't do it, I'll not do it. And I'll align with what you want, and we'll make it happen. The goal will be, as I described, that's the direction I want to head towards, and I will align with what you expect it to happen. And at any time, if you don't like the course, you don't have to do it. There is no, what was the word you asked me in email? No dropout fee, no cancellation fee. There is no such thing. You can anytime walk away. There is no penalty at all. Yes, I just told you the answer. No. You will not be a burden on you. You'll not neither on you nor on your company. Was it you or you? Somebody asked me. Yeah, you asked me. So no, we will not be a burden on you as an individual, not be a burden on you as a company at all. As simple as that. As simple as that. Sweet. Thank you. I think we scheduled it. Can you make it?
I don't know if I can make Friday. I could probably do it virtually.
I see. So speaking of virtually, let me just stop my virtual transmission. It's still going on. But yes, I think you can. I'll give you a link. You can participate remotely. Yeah, you can absolutely participate remotely. I'll give you a link and a method to. You have an iPad. Use the iPad to download Hangout app.
Okay.
And that will work. Make sure to log in with the CloudGenius email, and that should work. You can remotely talk to us, look at us, and all that good stuff.
Okay.
Have you participated in some kind of a video conference like that, right? Yeah.
And I have just a desktop.
Yeah. PC. You don't even need a webcam. You just need to have a microphone and speaker.
Okay.
You need, yeah. Or if you don't have a microphone, then use a webcam, because my webcams typically have microphones.
Okay.
You know that, right?
Yeah. All right.
Sweet.
See you Friday.
Thank you, Andrew. See you virtually Friday.
Yep.
Yeah. What was that? You can probably see him if he uses a webcam. Yes.
When I complete the form yesterday, when do they need the voucher ID?
You can give it to me. I'll pass it on to them. Is voucher how you pay, or you pay through check? Okay.
So our program generates a voucher. That's the voucher. So I can
For the course, I have 3 different vouchers. The first courses I made it 1,400, the last one was 1,200.
As long as it totals up to 4,000, it should be okay.
Okay. So
No problem.
you don't care about the rate. Yeah,
I keep it simple, man. Don't complicate stuff. Keep it simple. So for whatever it takes for your internal accounting, do it. If you give me 3 vouchers, as long as it totals up to 4,000, I will accept it.
Okay,
No
sure.
problem.
So let's start the
Yeah, sweet. No problem.
Student ID.
As in identity card, as in paper. The number. You will have to get from Kirkland office. This is the branch location. The main office is in Kirkland.
Created and
No, not yet. Not use TBD. Call me. Don't call them. Call me. It'll take me time. And right now use TBD. And when it finalizes, I'll hand it off to you.
Okay.
They will not know yet.
In the vouchers, it has
Yeah.
the student ID sort of in it.
Yeah, use TBD for now.
Okay.
And when we get to the point where we'll have an ID for you, I will have to go to Kirkland office where the main campus is located and get this created for you and then come back. And when I have it, I'll give it to you. The ID as in number, not the picture, right? Yeah,
Just
yeah, exactly.
Now
Yes.
it's for you.
Thank you, sir.
So just this part and this part,
Huh.
but it's double size. So I just give
So it's
you
two people here, or
Just me.
so why does it say $8,000?
No, because they just pre-authorize me like that.
Okay,
It should have been 4,000.
Should have
That's
been.
your point.
I know. So it should not confuse anybody in Lake Washington that this money is way more than, is it for two people? That's the kind of confusion people might run into.
So all three courses, 4,000.
Well, I enter 4,000. I don't know why.
Oh no, so there are two places. One's called tuition, and there's something else. So I initially entered 4,000 in both of them, and it totaled up to 8,000.
Oh, I
So-
just do one.
so Okay,
I
we
just
can look
put
at
like-
it. I mean,
Yeah.
I know
So
how
check
it is.
again.
So you may want to fix it before you.
I think, yeah, don't give me, I'm not, listen,